Hello, and welcome back to our search for the best storyteller in Are You Afraid of the Dark? Are you guys ready? Because we are about to talk about the 5th and final season of the original series. With this season, the concept of the show stays the same. It's about a group of misfit friends who meet together to tell scary stories. But with season 5, we start off with some pretty sad news. Frank's family has moved away, and he will no longer be a part of the Midnight Society. His leaving always makes me sad. I mean, we started the show with him, we watched as he made friends and listened to stories with him for 4 years. But now he's gone. Frank will be missed, but he gave us some incredible tales and one of the greatest characters ever with Dr. Vink, so he may be gone, but we will never forget him. With Frank leaving, we get a new member to the Midnight Society and a kid responsible for 2 absolutely amazing stories named Stig. Tucker brings him along and he's easily the most disliked newcomer in the entire show, at least to the other Midnight Society members. Stig is a little bit gross, he doesn't care about cleanliness, and he has a bit of a reputation of basically being a human booger. But it takes a bit of time for everyone to remember that when they initially joined, they were each also a little bit odd to the others. So as the season progresses, it is fun to see their friendship with Stig slowly start to form.
A lot of people don't like the way I am. They're always telling me I gotta clean up my act.
And other than Stig, our Midnight Society remains the same for season 5. We've got Gary, who mystifies us with tales of misunderstood magics, Kiki with her cautious tales of peculiar strangers, Betty Ann with her horrors of beings envious of human life, Tucker, who tells us tales of warnings from the past, and Sam, who breaks our hearts with more tragic love stories. Where a lot of shows get worse as they go on, I'm so happy to say that Are You Afraid of the Dark continues with its quality and interesting stories. So enough build up. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and consider subscribing. And now, submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society, I ask the question, who tells the best scary story in Are You Afraid of the Dark? Season 5. The first episode of this season is told by the newcomer Stig, and, well, like I mentioned, he's not the favorite of the group, cause he's kinda gross. But where the Midnight Society is pretty lukewarm with him at first, I think most of us as an audience immediately accepted him into the crew because of this very first story. And I know that this had a huge impact on a lot of you as well, because you've told me. This episode is The Tale of the Dead Man's Float, and it is by far the episode that I've received the most comments about on all of the other Are You Afraid of the Dark videos. Like, it's not even close. This episode has stuck in the minds of so many of us, playing on a fear, not of water, but of what lies beneath, and scaring us all with one of the most terrifying monsters that we've seen in the show so far. And it all starts with a quick flashback to 1954, where we see a young boy swimming in the pool while his sister and her lifeguard boyfriend smooch in the back office.
You want me to leave?
Not really.
Every once in a while, we'll see shots from the perspective of something that's beneath the water. It's the first sign we get of the monster to come, as the gaze shifts to the swimming boy, and a moment later, he's pulled beneath the water. In present day, we meet Zeke.
Friends call me Zeke.
No, not that Zeke. Although we do have a video covering him too. This is a different Zeke, who's a little bit of a chemistry nerd, so we get a few chemistry lessons in this episode, with the first and most important one being right here.
If you mix manganite with water, the reaction is always the same. Kaboom. Laugh of surprise. I just miscalculated the ratio.
How interesting. My education is complete.
Other than chemistry, all that occupies Zeke's mind is his crush, Clarice. She's on the swim team, and Zeke has recently made a discovery that he thinks will interest her, so they meet up the next morning, where Zeke shows her an old covered door to the school's long-forgotten pool. It turns out that the pool was shut down for unknown reasons years ago, so the school swim team has been forced to go to a pool it's like an hour away for their practices. But now that this once forgotten pool is no longer forgotten, Clarice realizes that she can bring it up to the administration and have it reopened for use. As the kids leave, we see the school's janitor Charlie lurking in the shadows of the pool house, and then we see a different figure of some kind stand from beneath the pool's covering. But I'm sure it's nothing, so let's cut to a little bit of time later. A bit of time later, the pool is open again and in full use by the school. Everything seems to be perfectly fine, but the swimmers do notice a weird rancid smell every once in a while coming from seemingly random places inside the water. And the shot of someone stalking swimmers from beneath the water is back, so we know things are about to go really bad. Well, it turns out that Clarice is failing chemistry, so Zeke sees this as his chance and offers to tutor her in exchange for some secret swimming lessons. The deal is made, and that night Clarice and Zeke head to the pool to take a plunge. We learn that Zeke is afraid of water ever since he almost drowned as a kid, but now he's always felt like something in the water has had it out for him, wanting to claim the life that it almost got when he nearly drowned. To combat this fear, he and Clarice head into the middle of the pool on a little inflatable raft as a way to force Zeke to face this thing that he's afraid of. They take things nice and slow, Clarice leading by example as she tests the water and jumps in. But she never pressures Zeke to go in too quickly. They also notice that rancid smell is in the pool, and we've been getting really frequent shots from beneath the water, but I'm sure everything's gonna be just fine. Finally feeling brave, Zeke reaches his hand into the water, only to have his fear realized when he's pulled into the pool.
Something grabbed me. It tried to drown me.
What?
Clarice helps him back into the raft, but whatever is in the water begins to bash against the raft and try to tip them over, and when they try to paddle away, their hands are grabbed and they're nearly pulled back into the water. They try to wait it out, but then the raft is flipped and they're both thrown into the water. Things seem pretty dire, but at the very last minute, the janitor pops up and saves the kids. He brews them some tea and brews up a little bit of exposition for us. It turns out that Charlie the janitor used to be Charlie the lifeguard, the same one from the intro that we saw, and he says that he tried to save that boy that we saw drown, but he felt something fight against him in the water. No one believed him, but then more people started to drown, and after 3 drownings, they finally decided to shut down the pool. And Charlie's theory for what's happening, it's so good. One thing I love about the context of the show is that everything that seems like it could just be like dumb writing, it could also be explained away by the fact that it's a kid who's telling the story that we're watching. So Charlie's theory is that the school's pool, only the pool, was once a graveyard. And when the school wanted to build a pool, they had to move it.
When they built the pool, they had to get rid of an old cemetery and move the bodies. Nearest I can figure is they missed one.
I absolutely love this kind of thing. Just a regurgitated story beat from a horror movie that you know. Like the kid, he must have just watched it right before telling the story. It happens a little bit later with something else that I'll point out too, but it's just always something that's made me laugh. So, as Zeke is a chemistry guy, he's realized that the rancid smell that accompanies the pool thingy is a type of acid that, when mixed with another chemical, will cause the combination to turn red. And they figure that seeing this thing is a good place to start. So, they grab the chemicals and mix it into the pool, where we get the reveal of this rotting red corpse.
It looks like it's...
I love the crumbling skull and the missing teeth. Then the way the red mixes with the rags of the clothing. Like, it's hard to say what's clothing and what's strips of flesh. It's absolutely a terrifying design. In fact, this thing is so scary that Charlie just instantly goes into shock. This is the other thing that I was talking about. Like, as a kid, thinking people just getting petrified when they go into shock seemed like something that would happen a lot. But, yeah, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Oh, I love it. So Charlie's out of the picture, and now the dead man is on the hunt, since it can no longer hide inside of the water. When the kids try to attack it, they learn that the monster is made of water, and this gives Clarice an idea. It turns out that she was paying attention to Zeke's tutoring, and she remembered that chemical that we learned about way at the beginning of this episode. The one that, when mixed with water, will explode. So they grab some of that, but it falls into the pool while still sealed, forcing Clarice to dive in and grab it while the dead man stalks her in the water. Zeke has no choice but to jump in to try and distract the dead man, and Clarice gets away, but Zeke nearly drowns, only to be saved again at the very last minute by Charlie, who is no longer in shock. They unseal the chemicals and toss them at the water monster.
Finally, after all these years, it's over. Thank you, kids.
So the power of chemistry and explosives was enough to defeat the dead man, and that is the end of this episode. Well, mostly. Like, at the very end, we see, of course, Zeke and Clarice. They're getting along really well. But then Clarice goes to dive into the water and she does this full-on belly flop, and that's where the episode ends. It's a perfect punctuation for a great episode. This is Stig's initiation story, and it is so good. Unfortunately, he doesn't get unanimously voted as a member for this story, so he isn't an official member of the Midnight Society yet, but he will be sticking around for another shot later on. But for now, let's talk about Dead Man's Float. This is such a great episode to start the series on. It focuses a lot more on fear than story, but clearly it's done it well since so many of us still remember being traumatized by this guy even 30 years later. I thought the story was pretty simple, but it did have a decent flow to it. I love that they say the pool was built over a graveyard and now one forgotten body is the thing that's been drowning kids for all these years. Like, it's the kind of silly, it just charms me. And I love that kind of thing in horror movies. And I liked it a lot in this episode as well. So I'll be going with a really solid 7 out of 10 for this story. But these scares are where it's at for this one. The corpse, which I just learned is called the Bloody Corpus, like such a rad name. It's so scary looking. It being dyed red by the chemicals added to its terror, making it seem bloody as it stalked the kids, and making it seem like pools of blood as it traveled through the drains. I'm shocked that they got away with letting this one on the kids show, but I'm so happy they did because, I mean, this guy is just so cool. I will say I do wish they did a little bit more with him. Mostly he just stalks around and looks great, which I don't hate, but it would have been really cool to see him do some different scary water-based things. We do see a lot of the Bloody Corpus though, so there's quite a few great scary and intense moments. And I mean just look at this guy. The Bloody Corpus has to be the scariest monster that we've seen in the series so far. Everything about its design is meant to give nightmares. And I know I'm not alone in thinking this. So, for the last 30 years of nightmares and unresolved childhood traumas, the Bloody Corpus will earn this episode a 10 out of 10 for scares. And that just leaves some bonus points. We'll give one for the monster design, another for making me laugh with the forgotten body from the graveyard story beat, and a final point for Clarice's belly flop at the end, because, I mean, that was just hilarious. So that's going to be 3 out of 5 bonus points, which will leave Stig's very first story and the first episode of Season 5, The Tale of the Dead Man's Float, with a total score of 20 out of 25.
Listen, you told a great story, but the vote has to be unanimous, and it wasn't.
But it's not fair. Yeah, well. Thanks for the shot.
Throughout these 5 seasons, Kiki has been a constant member of the Midnight Society, and I'd say she's the member who's had the most diversity to her storytelling. She's jumped around the horror subgenres, giving us anything from ghosts to age-sucking technology to tragic tales of lonely old ladies, and even brushing against the magical with The Dream Machine. But there's something that she's yet to cover, something that both Kristen and Sam are experts in. And with this episode, The Tale of the Jagged Sign, Kiki finally shoots her shot at a tragic love story. This one stars a girl named Claudia, who's staying with her aunt for a summer vacation. The aunt runs a senior-based live-in bed and breakfast, so basically Claudia will be chilling with a bunch of old people during the summer, and she's not too thrilled about it.
About time we had some new blood around here.
After being shown to a room, Claudia hears a music box playing and wanders down the hall where she meets a woman named Marjorie. She's pretty senile, talking a lot about her past, mentioning how she used to look a lot like Claudia, specifically mentioning her hair.
Such pretty hair.
And of course, she's enjoying her dove-themed music box. The aunt comes to find Claudia and mentions that Marjorie's been living here for a very long time, and her health is quickly declining. But Claudia can't focus too much on that, because she finally meets someone here that's her own age. It's pretty funny. Claudia goes outside and we meet a girl named Kate and her younger sister, Nikki. And Nikki just wants to play some baseball, but Kate tells her to go away. And then we never see her again in the entire episode. Like, I don't know why Nikki was a character for just this scene and never came back again, but what we do know is that she loves baseball, so that's good. Claudia and Kate go on a hike together that leads to the base of a cliff, and painted on that cliff is a strange symbol, something that no one knows the meaning of, that they've all come to call the Jagged Sign.
Everyone calls it the Jagged Sign. They say it's the mark of the dead man.
Up near the sign, they see a very strangely dressed boy, and Kate starts freaking out because she says that this dude is a ghost, and staring at the sign makes him appear. And she's not lying, because the boy vanishes and then invisibly draws the symbol in the dirt next to them. And then he reappears, which scares the girls away. The girls run and tell the aunt what they saw, but they're interrupted when Marjorie nearly burns the vista down trying to make some dangerous soup.
I was just making some soup, and then all of a sudden, all this smoke.
In the night, we see Claudia is sleeping with her door wide open. I used to do this as a kid too, but she's got all these old, scary people walking around in the middle of the night. Like, the door open is way scarier now than the door closed in this situation.
Can't sleep. Maybe some milk.
Claudia does see the ghost outside her window, and he draws that strange symbol for her again, but nothing else happens until the next day. So now events really start to unfold, as Marjorie's family has decided to move her into a nursing home. Claudia and Kate help pack her stuff, and we get a few clues and information on the ghost and the symbol. The first clue is this locket of hair that Marjorie had stuffed away.
What do you know? An old love knot.
A love knot?
Oh. Ladies used to tie up a lock of their hair and give it to their boyfriends. It was a sign of undying love.
Ooh.
They then find a picture of Marjorie when she was younger, and she's standing beside that same ghost boy that we saw at the cliffs. At this point, Claudia sees the ghost again, and he beckons for her, and in a really big brain move, she decides to follow him alone without telling anyone, and she climbs up the cliff after him. We'll come back to her in a few seconds, but Kate has one final clue to unravel. She takes the picture up to Marjorie and asks about the boy, and now we get the whole backstory. It turns out that Marjorie and this boy Joshua were in love and tried to elope, but Marjorie's dad found out and stopped her from leaving the house. They were supposed to meet at the cliffside, where Joshua promised to draw their symbol of undying love for the entire world to see. But while he was drawing, he fell and he died. He never finished the symbol, and Marjorie believes that he died thinking that she had abandoned him. But the way that she's cherished the Dove music box that he gave her proves that she's always loved him. So, yeah, if you haven't put it together, or if you're only on audio, the jagged sign that we've been seeing is the top of a dove with its wings ready for flight, just like the one that we've seen on Marjorie's music box. Kate realizes that Claudia's gone and she runs to find her, and then we get a little bit of dramatics as Claudia nearly falls from a cliff, but she's saved by Kate a few seconds later. And then they confront the ghost and tell him that Marjorie still loves him.
You should go to her.
And then two things happen. First, Joshua, the ghost, finishes up the jagged sign, and, well, let's just say Marjorie didn't love him for his art. There aren't a lot of people that I can make fun of for being worse at drawing than me, but Joshua, man, that's dude, that's the worst dove I've ever seen. It's so funny. Oh man. Anyway, the second thing that happens, it's not funny. We see Ghost Joshua and young Marjorie walking away together in the woods. So that means that Marjorie is dead now. Like, this is the way that they tell us that she's died. And then Kiki confirms it a second later.
Marjorie passed away that very afternoon. Everyone said how peaceful she looked at the end, even happy. They all thought it was because she was going on to a better place. But only Claudia and Kate knew just how true that was.
It's so wild. Like, yeah, it's a happy ending, but at the same time, it's just like whiplash of old lady death to end the episode. And there we go. Kiki's tragic love story. I actually really like this one, like a lot. It felt a bit like the tale of The Room for Rent, but it had a much better flow to it, and it did a very good job of laying clues out for us to follow throughout the episode. This episode was decently layered, but didn't feel convoluted or messy in its telling, which is something that the tragic love stories have had issues with in previous seasons. For this story, I'm thinking we're gonna go with a really solid 8 out of 10. But, oh Kiki, you fell into the classic trap of story over scares. I don't think a single thing in this episode was scary. You could maybe argue that the beckoning ghost is a little bit frightening, but I don't think the episode did really anything to make him seem scary. Like, the scariest part was definitely just that old lady walking by Claudia's room asking for milk, but even with that, I gotta say, it's an incredibly unscary 1 out of 10. Now, for a few bonus points, it turns out that this ghost Joshua went on to voice none other than Buster Baxter in Arthur, and there's no way Buster Baxter ain't getting a point from me, so there you go, definitely a point for Buster.
That was scary.
And I'll give another for this old dude. I don't remember what his name was, but every line he had, it was weirdly genuine, and I don't know, I really liked him.
About time we had some new blood around here. Go on, eat the Brussels sprouts, I told them. But don't say I didn't warn you when the gas starts acting up. I did. Ran out of here a few minutes ago like a jackrabbit.
Where'd she go?
Seems like she was heading for the woods.
The woods.
Hey, you need a fourth for bridge.
So 2 out of 5 bonus points, which will leave the tale of the Jagged Sign with a score of 11 out of 25. Hey, guess what? With episode 3, Stig is back already. Since he wasn't voted in with his last story, they offer him another chance, and just like with the Dead Man's Float, Stig doesn't hold back. This one is called The Tale of Station 109.1, and where Stig's last story is remembered for being nightmare fuel for kids around the world, this one is remembered for a few other reasons. 2 other reasons, to be specific, those being the people that we see in this episode. The main kid we follow is a boy named Chris, who is obsessed with death and darkness. And his older brother is played by none other than Ryan Gosling.
What a cheesehead.
In fact, this was his very first television role. I know he's also in an episode of Goosebumps, but that came out a year later, so Are You Afraid of the Dark? They got him first. It's so wild to see him so young in this. Gosling's name is Jamie in this episode, and he's trying everything he can to make his brother normal. They work on a car lot of some kind, and one day a hearse is brought to the lot, which gives Jamie an idea. He takes Chris out to the hearse and allows him to live his fantasy of being dead.
Here lies Chris Leary, dearly departed.
But as Chris is calmly dying, Gosling starts up the hearse and everything is loud, which scares Chris, but does nothing to help with his obsession with death. In fact, it only makes it worse in a way, because the hearse's radio is set to a secret station, one meant for only the dead.
This is 109.1, radio for the dimensionally challenged.
Sometimes we miss the chance to step over and need guidance. That's where we come in, friends.
If you guys don't already know, it's going to blow your mind when you find out who voices this radio host. There is nothing I can do to prepare you for what's about to come. It's so wild, man. Oh. So both Chris and Jamie start to notice some strange old people who stop them and begin to ask for directions. It's pretty creepy as they just shuffle down the street. And there's this one that Jamie runs into who's got a little bit of a familiar face. He's the same guy that we saw all the way back in season 1 who played the Houndmaster in The Tale of the Hungry Hounds. And he's also showed up in season 2 playing Old Man Corcoran in The Tale of Old Man Corcoran. He's a bit of an Are You Afraid of the Dark veteran at this point. Oh, and also he's a ghost. Being curious about this radio station, Chris hits the World Wide Web to find where the station is located, and he actually ends up finding an address pretty easily. He heads to the station, but inside is very strange. It gave me similar vibes to the waiting room in Beetlejuice. By that I mean it's literally a waiting room for the dead. Chris goes up to the front desk and knocks on the window, and are you ready? Because I know I wasn't.
Do not knock on the window! What's the matter with you? You can't breathe? Here, knock window. Do not on the. Let's try it together, shall we? Do not knock on the window!
Freaking Gilbert Gottfried and Ryan Gosling are in this episode. The amount of future star power in these 22 minutes is probably more significant than in the rest of the series as a whole. It's so crazy that they both show up out of nowhere in this one. Stig was really pulling some strings for us. Good man. Well, Chris ends up being mistaken as the dead guy who was supposed to be in the hearse where he heard the radio broadcast. So he's given a really cool snap bracelet and told to wait until he's processed into the afterlife, which turns out is terrifying.
I'm not supposed to go! No, you made a mistake! You got the wrong man!
He led a nasty life, and he's gonna lead a much nastier afterlife.
I have to point out how cool the design on these afterlife doors are. Not only do we see glimpses of blinding void from behind it, but the door itself is covered in carvings and faces and vines. It's creepy and weird and definitely captures an air that it's guarding something ancient. It's a really cool design. But not wanting to be dead, Chris runs back home to ask Jamie for help. But it turns out the snap bracelet, it basically made Chris a ghost now.
Forget Clark and Ryan. Listen to me.
There's also this scene where Chris is ranting at Ryan Gosling, and Gosling's just on the phone pretending to have a conversation while not being able to hear his younger brother. It's a really simple scene, but it's also a pretty long camera shot. It lasts about a minute and has some slightly complex dialogue throughout the entire thing. I wanted to mention it because the kid actors here, I mean, they did a really great job in this scene. I'm sure it was super stressful to learn and practice, and each mess up would have been a lot to reset. So it's definitely a noteworthy scene for me. When Chris tries to run somewhere else, he finds himself back in the waiting room, and each time he tries to leave, he's just transported back. For some reason, Gilbert Gottfried takes Chris back to the radio room, and we see him do that radio voice, and man, it blew my mind to hear this voice come out of this man.
We're on the air live, so to speak. This is station 109.1 at the end of your radio dial for spirits at the end of their ropes.
I made that up.
Hearing him like this it's wrong. I don't like it. This ain't my Iago. You know what I'm saying? So Gottfried leaves Chris in the radio room while he takes care of some deadly business. And Chris sees this as his chance to try and get some help. He uses the radio to overtake a station that Jamie is listening to, and he begs his brother for help.
Jamie, this is Chris. Man, I hope you're listening to this. I'm trapped at the radio station. They think I'm dead, and they're gonna make me go to the afterlife.
Say what?
This isn't a joke.
Initially, he thinks it's all a prank, but the old man Corcoran keeps popping up and scaring him and begging him for help as well, so eventually, Gosling is forced to believe Chris.
Please don't run away. I need help. And so does your brother.
There's a quick scene where Chris is trying to convince Gilbert Gottfried that he's innocent, and Gilbert he just goes off and rants. It's so funny.
Mister, you gotta listen to me.
Roy. The name is Roy.
Roy, you got the wrong guy.
Boy, if I had a dime for every time somebody tried to weasel out of dead, it would actually do me no good at all, because I'm dead. What do I need money for? What am I gonna do? I'm dead. What am I gonna do? Buy gum?
But you're making a mistake.
I don't make mistakes, buddy boy. When I was alive, I worked for the Department of Motor Vehicles!
948279.
But now, Chris's number is up, and as he's being dragged to the death doors, Gosling and Corcoran burst in and shout that Chris is still alive, and this is how Gilbert Gottfried reacts.
Really?
Yes, finally.
Yeah, I don't think so.
So, Chris is dead. The end. Just kidding.
Chris, are you okay? Yeah. They rejected me. They said I wasn't dead.
Uh-oh.
They also said they wanted to have a word with you.
Oh, great. There goes my pension.
The boys set the record straight, and then we see Chris and Corcoran swap places, so Corcoran is going towards his afterlife, and it's kind of beautiful. The light shines back on him with warmth, and the music calms as he steps forward. His eyes never leave the sight that only he can see, and then he steps through the doors.
If you led a good life, it's the best thing going.
We get one quick scene showing that Chris is no longer super obsessed with death, and also he dresses like Arthur now, and that is where this episode ends. Now, obviously, with this story, Stig is accepted into the Midnight Society and made an official member, and with 2 incredible back-to-back stories, I'm glad he was brought in for this final season. This episode is everything that I love about this show. I feel a very similar way with this episode as I do with The Tale of the Bookish Babysitter. They're very different episodes, clearly, but for me they each tell stories that elevate the concept of the show in such a special way. With The Tale of Station 109.1, we get dragged into a whole world that's hidden behind death. As Chris goes through the waiting room, it feels like this place is faking at being familiar. And as we see pieces of the afterlife and learn small bits of information about what's beyond, it doesn't feel like padding meant to just give us an easy answer, but rather an established and only partially comforting truth that we can't fully realize. This is all delivered to us through a lost kid who's mistakenly tossed into the ether, and all ending with that beautiful departure from Old Man Corcoran. For me, this is a nearly perfect story, and will without a doubt be getting a perfect 10 out of 10. The episode did have some decent scares with the old ghosts wandering around, and then all the uneasy moments with Gilbert Gottfried's character, and all the terrifying screams of people as they're dragged into those death doors. It's not like the most terrifying thing in the world, but I'd say it is a solid 6 out of 10. And that only leaves us with some bonus points. And I'm going with a full 5 out of 5 for this one. I loved so much in this episode. It's so rad to see young Ryan Gosling, and I'll always be a fan of Gilbert Gottfried, so some easy points there. And then there's the snap bracelet, which, you gotta give a point for pure style there. There's Gilbert Gottfried's radio voice, the beautiful ending scene with Old Man Corcoran, the really awesome design for the death door. Like, there's just so much that I love. So definitely full marks on this one. Which means that twice in a row now, Stig absolutely killed it and earned the Tale of Station 109.1, a total of 21 out of 25 points. Episode 4 gives us Betty Ann's first story of the season. Last season, it felt like Kiki took some inspiration from one of Betty Ann's stories to create the tale of the Closet Keepers, but for this episode, those roles feel a little bit reversed. All the way back in season 1, Kiki gave us the tale of the Captured Souls, a story about mirrors that sucked out people's life force in order to keep this goofy-haired little goober young forever. So now, let's keep that story in mind as we dive into this episode called The Tale of the Mystical Mirror. In a quick intro scene, we see a girl running from someone in the woods. Her running doesn't last too long as she's captured and falls a few seconds later. Her screams of terror then oddly transform into barks. This episode is all about beauty. The main characters, Laurel and Cindy, go to a beauty shop where Laurel works. We also meet the coworker named Vicky, and a few minutes later, the shop owner named Miss Valentini. She invites the girls to a fashion party at her house, but first, she offers Cindy a job. And of course, that means that Cindy will have to get a whole new look.
Little blush and you'll look great. I'll look like Zebo the Clown. You won't.
Cindy gets that full transformation, but then Miss Valentini is suddenly feeling faint. So she heads to a back room where Cindy watches her cradle a strange, glowing mirror. Dare I say, a mystical mirror. Also, every time it shows this mirror, it does a little chime, so you know it's got to be at least a little bit important. Also, Cindy is given a little makeup kit that has a pocket mirror in it, and that is important for a little bit later on, so I've got to mention it now. That night, Vicky, the coworker, meets with Miss Valentini before the other girls get to her house. But Valentini clearly has no good intentions, and it's not even subtle about it from here on out, because she gives Vicky the mirror and begins to hypnotize her, offering her beauty and youth, all at the cost of taking a drink from some strange goblet. But when Vicky drinks, she falls to the ground. We get a pretty cool and creepy POV shot as Miss Valentini taunts Vicky, but that ends, and as Vicky screams, we see her eyes begin to glow with those beautiful 90s special effects. Effects like these, just simple and dirty, always give me like that little nostalgic kick. Stuff like this was all over the place when I was a kid, so it's so fun to see again coming up now. A little bit later on, Laurel and Cindy show up, but Miss Valentini says that Vicky was a no-show for the fashion party.
But she never showed up. I was so disappointed.
Laurel gets right to the new fashion line, but Cindy has a bad feeling as she notices a watch that Vicky was wearing that day is discarded on the floor, so she says that she has to go to the bathroom and begins to explore Valentini's house. We see some pictures of Valentini's pageant winnings, which seem cool, only they're each like 20 years apart, so dang, Valentini's looking pretty good for her age. But Cindy also notices that there are no mirrors in the entire house, other than the mystical one in the main room.
How can you be so vain and not have a mirror in your bathroom?
Fortunately, Cindy's got that pocket mirror, so she pops it open, only to be jump scared as the reflection of Valentini's picture shows her now as an old lady. It's so funny because even like the painting shows up all old, like someone painted this, but it's still affected by the magic for some reason. And then Valentini herself is also showing up as an old lady in the reflection, which is pretty fun.
Something wrong?
Also, while Cindy was snooping, Laurel just gets hypnotized, so that's good. Laurel is following in Vicky's footsteps and takes a sip from that same goblet a moment before Cindy bangs on a window and forces Laurel to run away from Miss Valentini with her. They run into the woods, but it seems like that sip from the goblet was enough because Laurel falls to the ground and gets her eyes all glowy, and then a second later she's replaced with a cute little husky. Miss Valentini takes the Laurel dog and puts her in a cage with the Vicky dog and the intro girl dog, and then she begins to do some kind of ritual.
3 tongues of dog that spoke as woman fair. Your beauty will live in me eternally.
So the first thing that Valentini has to do is cut out the tongues from the dogs. So she's like super evil, but as she's distracted taunting the dogs, Cindy sneaks up and grabs the mirror. She threatens to smash it, but we get the whole bargaining thing from Valentini that you'd probably expect. She offers Cindy beauty and youth and all of that, but only if she doesn't smash the mirror. But Cindy is apparently incredibly mentally healthy because she knows that she doesn't need outside beauty and decides that friendship is the true thing worth fighting for.
What do you really want?
What I want.
Yes. Tell me.
What I really want is my friend back.
And then we get the greatest and by far scariest scene in this episode. As the magic from the mirror fades, Miss Valentini deteriorates into a skeleton and then down into bones. It's really freaky, but the thing that made it even more scary was Cindy's reaction to this happening, because it feels so real that I was actually put a little bit on edge. Like, it didn't feel like acting at this part, which has to be the highest praise that I could give to an actor, but her reaction, it's just pure terror as Valentini turns into bones. The 3 dog girls turn back into human girls and they stare at the smoldering Valentini, and that's the end. I gotta say, I didn't love this episode. I didn't hate it, but it was one of the weaker episodes that we've seen in quite some time. The message is great, but the execution is pretty rough. For some reason, it felt like everyone in this episode just whispered their lines, so it was also kind of hard to hear at times, and each beat of the story, it kind of felt like it was taking the most obvious and predictable path possible. It was an overall okay story, but I'd call it a perfectly middle of the line time, so 5 out of 10. I feel pretty similar about the scares for this one. There weren't a lot of scary bits, the camera POV stood out a little bit, and then that ending of course was pretty rad, but otherwise there weren't too many spooky moments. For that end scene alone, I'll go with another perfectly middle of the line, 5 out of 10. It's just a perfectly mid-feeling episode for me, so that will just leave us with the bonuses. I've got to give a point for that Zeebo mention, and the fun special effects will definitely earn a point as well. I'll do another for that end scene. I mean, it's just such a rad effect. It's a cool scene all in all, and the acting there is awesome, so definitely worth a point. And that'll be 3 out of 5 bonus points, which will leave the Tale of the Mystical Mirror with a middle of the line score of 13 out of 25. In episode 5, something happens that has yet to occur in this series. Right off the bat, we've got to visit the closet of terrible 90s fashion because for the first time, at least that I've paid attention to, it's Tucker who's wearing the terrible multicolor striped and uneven patterned absolutely travesty of a shirt. Instead of the calcium powder, they should have thrown this thing in the fire to make the flames grow because it's just awful. But other than his ugly shirt, Tucker's also here to tell us his scary story, the tale of Prisoner's Past. With this story, Tucker keeps up his theme of brothers who don't always see eye to eye. This time we've got 2 stepbrothers, one named Jason, who's the classic nerdy guy, captain of the chess club, a bit scrawny, always wearing glasses and overanalyzing every situation, while his stepbrother Scott is the polar opposite, being the average, overconfident jock who's also a little bit of a bully. The dynamic of these two is so strange, but I really liked it. It felt like the actors were actually really good friends, not the characters they were playing. Clearly they're supposed to be constantly butting heads and getting on each other's nerves, but as these two interact, it just felt to me like 2 close friends who were having the occasional argument, but ultimately enjoyed being around each other. Like I said, it was a little bit strange, but I found myself cheering for their friendship as the episode went on. I've also got to mention Scott, just in general. His acting is so funny and over the top. Basically every scene he's in is just him hamming it up, and I loved it the entire time. So the brothers go on a school tour of a local prison that was shut down 50 years ago. But as they argue over buying some t-shirts, Jason swipes Scott's $10 bill and runs deeper into the prison. Of course, Scott chases him, so now the brothers are separated from the rest of the group. There's one part where Scott runs through a door that's covered in cobwebs and Jason makes fun of him, but Jason also got into the room first somehow and avoided the webs? I don't know how. I mean, I guess he's got the looks of the classic Peter Parker, so maybe we've just got a young Spider-Man on our hands. Dino, cut that joke if it sucks. Dino, cut that joke if it sucks. And then you cut me off there, so it's see, we're incepting the joke. You didn't actually even cut off my joke. I cut it off myself with my superior acting skills, but you can make it look like it's an edit. Boom, dude. That's showbiz, baby. That's showbiz, baby. As they wander through the halls, they find one cell that seems to have a prisoner still inside.
Robbed a bank, but I done my time and more.
Wow, that's cute.
I think this dude was pretty scary. He's called One-Eyed Jack, probably due to him having only one eye and also being named Jack, and he begs the boys to unlatch his cell so that he can finally be free. But when they do, Jack just laughs and then disappears.
Man, that was awesome!
awesome!
Let's get out.
One-Eyed Jack was pretty scary this episode. He's always framed looming over the boys and just seems dirty and dangerous. He appears behind the boys and demands that they enter his cell. But the brothers think quick, and instead they dash away. Unfortunately, not even doors can stop One-Eyed Jack, since he's definitely a ghost. The boys keep running until they finally get back to their teacher, and the field trip ends. Back at home, the brothers are talking about Jack and trying to figure out exactly what he was.
We saw some new exhibit, a movie, a hologram, something.
You think?
What do you think it was? A ghost?
Yeah, that is kind of dumb, huh?
Yeah, you know what else is really dumb?
No, what?
Never, ever take money from me.
But they realize that a ghost is exactly what Jack is when he opens their window in the middle of the night, and when the boys get up to close it, he grabs Jason. I have to admit, this scene made me jump on this latest watch through. Like as an adult, I jumped at a kid's show, and One-Eyed Jack actually kind of scared me for like a second. So maybe I shouldn't admit that. Dino, cut that too. Fortunately, One-Eyed Jack disappears after the parents come into the room, but I did start to notice that with each appearance of this ghost, the brothers start to get along a little bit more. They keep their differences, but just find that they can actually rely on each other in these kinds of situations, just like you would hope that you could from your brother. They go to the library the next day and search through newspaper articles until they find an entry from 1942 about One-Eyed Jack. Apparently, he was the only prisoner to ever escape from that prison. He was never found, and even 50 years later, he's thought to be old and on the run. However, they do find that Jack's daughter lives nearby, so they head there to see if she has any information for them. Now, while I may have jumped at One-Eyed Jack, all I could do was laugh at his daughter. This part was so funny. I have expected that Jack's daughter would also have just one eye, like, you know, as a funny little bit in this show. But no, she's got two eyes. And she also has two freaking canes. So we've got One-Eyed Jack and his two-caned daughter. I love it. But the daughter wants nothing to do with the boys, so she just kicks them off of her property. When they get home, we see the point of view of the stalking ghost, and a few seconds later, Scott is grabbed through his bedroom door and dragged away. And I love how they leave his shoes behind when he's grabbed. It's such cartoon logic, and it made me laugh so hard. This episode was really funny. Jason chases after his brother and winds up back at the prison, and would you look at that, the door opens by itself. That's such a welcoming sign. He finds Scott passed out in One-Eyed Jack's cell, and we get a cute little bonding moment as Jason says that he didn't even think, and he just ran after Scott to try and help his brother. It's cute. But then as they try to leave, the cell is blocked, and the boys are trapped inside. They see a rat, and just listen to this line delivery. It was so funny to me for some reason.
What?
I just saw the biggest, fattest rat I have ever seen.
Where'd it go?
Scott is such a ham. The boys watch the rat escape behind the toilet and realize that One-Eyed Jack must have made a tunnel in his cell to escape through. So they move the toilet, and boom, there's the secret tunnel. They begin to crawl through the tunnel, but it gets super narrow, and Jason realizes that the path ahead is blocked by something. Scott shines his flashlight on the object and... the tunnel collapses, and they and the skeleton crash into the prison mess hall where the ghost of Jack is waiting. He thanks the boys for finally freeing him, saying that he did too good of a job covering his tracks, but then he got stuck while trying to escape, so he never actually escaped, and he was never trying to trick the boys into taking his place in prison. He just wanted someone to finally find his body and tell his daughter what happened to him.
Sorry, putting you through all that, boys.
That's no problem. We're just gonna go now.
As a final request, he asks them to take a photo from his pocket and bring it to his daughter so that she can finally have some closure.
After all those years, One-Eyed Jack's daughter finally found out what happened to her father. And she too found some peace.
Thank you, boys. Thank you.
And with that, the episode ends. A lot of times in the show, I find myself loving the monsters or bad guys, or really just the weird characters. But for this one, I really liked our main duo. They might not have been the best actors, but I loved their overacting and their entire dynamic. They've got a pretty good story arc as their bond of brotherhood grows, and it fits into the full episode's narrative of finding and freeing One-Eyed Jack really well. Jack's story was also pretty compelling. I like that he wasn't really a bad guy, but he was just trying to give his family some closure of himself. It was a cool little twist. So, for this story, I'll be going with a really solid score of 8 out of 10. It also had some decent scary moments. Everything with Jack was a bit frightening, him coming through the doors was great, and then grabbing Jason out the window was a good scare. There's also, like, his skeleton showing up, that was a little bit scary, especially for a kid's show. So I'm thinking we're gonna go with a 6 out of 10 for the scares. And for a few bonuses, I'll do one for Scott since I loved his overacting so much. I'll do another for the shoe scene, it was just really funny and I didn't expect it. And I want to do another for the delivery of
I just saw the biggest, fattest rat I have ever seen.
That line, it's going to be living in my head for years to come. And I'll do a final point for One-Eyed Jack and his two-caned daughter. They're a duo that's definitely worth a point. So 4 out of 5 bonus points, which leaves Tucker and the Tale of Prisoners Past with a total score of 18 out of 25. This was a really fun episode. So we've been watching the show together for 5 seasons now. That's 57 episodes so far. So you've probably picked up on my tastes with certain types of stories. So I don't think it's too surprising when I say that tragic love horror is not the strong suit in this series. We've gotten some great episodes and great stories within the genre, some of my favorite stories, in fact, with The Tale of the Dream Girl, The Prom Queen, and this season's Jagged Sign. But even with these stories, when I watch these episodes, I find I'm usually left wanting a little bit more. Maybe if the stories were a bit longer, or even slightly less complex, then they could really breathe and fill in those small missing bits that this show's other horror genres usually excels in. Well, the next storyteller is Sam, so you know what that means. We've already had one tragic love story this season, and it looks like we'll be getting another with The Tale of C7. I won't lie, watching this episode, I went in with really low expectations. I didn't remember this one at all, so that's a bad sign. But as the episode began, I immediately knew that this could be the love story that has it all. From the first scene, the music begins to swell. It's nothing crazy right now, but it's a constant build in the entire episode. This episode is all about music, and it seems like they pulled out all the steps for this episode's compositions. I'll point out moments when it really stands out, but really the whole episode has music that I thought was really, really well done. And that's not the only thing that sets this one apart, because the camera work has a similar purpose and style. It's not as good as the music, but they clearly had a few things in mind with the cinematography, and you can feel that purpose in even simple POV shots or tilted zooms. This episode is about a family that moves into an old inn. Mostly we follow a boy named Jason, but he also has a younger sister named Lisa that gets wrangled up in the story. And before anything else, we have to visit the 90s fashion furnace because holy cow, this family is helpless. The mom shirt is some floral printed Rorschach that just looks like brown mush if you look at it in the wrong light. But somehow, this isn't even the worst thing in this episode because Lisa comes in swinging with this absolute abomination of rainbow and cheetah print, a matching t-shirt and pair of capris all trying to be hidden by that purple striped shirt. But it ain't working. That shirt is hiding nothing. We can see whatever this thing is, and staring at it is harder to comprehend than understanding Lovecraftian languages. This has to be the worst thing we've seen in this series so far. Season 5 really is pulling out all the stops, man. What a nightmare. Anyway, the fashion isn't the only thing that's scary in this episode, because the family finds a stuck door in one of the rooms, and it reminded me just a little bit of The Sixth Sense. Really just like the look of the doorknob, except not red, and then the fact that the door doesn't budge at all when they try to move it. It just had that vibe, I guess. But that night, Jason wakes up when he hears someone singing. This is one of those music parts I was talking about. It's so haunting and beautiful, with those eerie wails and moans coming from the distance. So Jason heads downstairs, where he gets startled by...
What are you doing? Did you hear that music? No, what music? It came from down there.
It's just his mom, and she says that Jason must have had a bad dream. That is, until they look over and find that Lisa is standing there, staring at the nearby lake. And the way it's shot is so cool and creepy.
Can't you hear the music?
Told you.
The next morning, they find that the stuck door is now open, and inside they find an old jukebox. Once Jason turns it on and the music begins to play, we see the point of view of a ghost as it begins to wander from the water. But once the jukebox shorts out and the music turns off, the point of view retreats. I'd say Sam got some inspiration from the Tale of the Dark music all the way back in season 1, but I mean, she wasn't even there, so it's totally impossible for that to have been her inspiration. This is her original tale. Jason decides to fix up the jukebox, and he gets it operational not too long later. All the tracks play except for the song on C7. But as the music from the other tracks play, the thing from the water crawls out again, and this time it peers in through the window. Jason startles backwards and bumps the jukebox off, so the girl disappears, leaving behind only a trail of water. But the night's not over, because there's one more scare that Jason has to suffer through.
Jason, you've got to stop doing that. Did you see that girl?
What girl?
The next night, the jukebox turns on again, but this time the ghost is even closer, and I love how this whole scene is framed in purple light from the jukebox. It makes the whole thing feel a little more dreamlike and ethereal. Jason is startled, which causes him to bump off the jukebox again, and the music here reminded me a lot of John Carpenter's The Thing.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Jason's mom drops this line that she thinks maybe he's been sleepwalking again, which means that Jason has a history, so I thought that they would lean into this at some point, or that it was some kind of clue for what was to come, but nope, this is just a throwaway bit of Jason lore, so he used to sleepwalk. That's cool. Things only get worse as the next day Lisa steals the rowboat and tries to row out into the middle of the lake. Fortunately, she doesn't get too far, but she does mumble something about hearing singing from a pretty lady that came from the middle of the lake. But when the girl saw Lisa, she just began to cry and stated that she was heartbroken and can't move on because she never got her promised last dance. So obviously, this place that they've moved into has a history, and the mom knows all about it. But hold on. What's that Lisa's reading? Is that a Ghastly Grinner comic book? Dude, that's so sick. All right, bonus point. Bonus point there. No, wait, we're not at the bonus point section yet. Let's talk about the ghosts. We see the story of a soldier who was about to finish his deployment, so his family set up a huge party to celebrate his homecoming. They invited everyone, including the woman that the soldier was in love with. But on that very night, as the party was about to begin, they receive a telegram saying that the soldier died in an ambush, so he won't be coming home. The love of his life was so distraught that she takes a canoe to the middle of the lake to cry, but it tips and she drowns.
There was a storm that night, and his girlfriend's canoe washed up on the shore, empty.
That night, the mother goes to work, so Jason continues to work on the jukebox while Lisa keeps on reading about this neat little ghastly grinner fella. Jason is really trying to figure out what the issue is with C7, so he focuses in, which makes it so that he doesn't notice as Lisa stands up and mutters about warning the girl on the lake before she walks away. After a few minutes, Jason notices that Lisa is gone, and he realizes that the rowboat is now missing as well. He calls the police, but starts to ramble about ghosts, so they hang up on him. But the cops are the least of his worries because the ghost has now made it inside. Jason has a sudden realization of what the ghost must want. He goes to the jukebox and presses down C7, and this time, the jukebox works perfectly. And we see as a song titled The Last Dance begins to play. As the song plays, the room around Jason transforms. We're taken to the party of the soldier, and everyone is here. All the spirits of the soldier's loved ones and family are there together, even the soldier himself. But there's one person who's been missing for all these decades. The music in the entire episode has been fantastic, and it all culminates here as the song swells and we watch as the girl from the lake enters the inn and finally reunites with her love.
Excuse me, buddy.
After not too long, the girl thanks Jason and the spirits all around him fade and he ends up back in his own house. But the scares aren't quite over.
We have got to stop scaring each other like this.
After the final mom jump scare, Jason remembers his missing sister, so he and his mom rush to the lake to try and find her. The mom here acts so well, and it kind of freaked me out because she is screaming and frantic, and I don't know, it was really good acting, like that last actress in the Mystical Mirror episode. It just felt like a woman screaming and freaking out about her missing child, and yet that's pretty scary. But then Lisa she pops up wearing the overalls and shirt of a freaking watermelon, but she says the ghost saved her from drowning, so it's all good now. The family head inside, and it's a great happy ending. Just before we talk about this episode, there's one thing that I didn't really have a good chance to mention. In the intro, Sam talks about how she chooses her stories, and she shows off that she collects trinkets from family members that help to give her inspiration. The ring from the Tale of the Dream Girl once belonged to Sam's actual brother, and the locket from Watcher's Woods belonged to her grandmother. It's kind of cool, but, not really relevant to the story. I just wanted to mention it here. And something else that I really liked about this episode is the name itself. Like, there's a little bit more to it than some of the others have had so far. Technically, it's called The Tale of C7, but as we watch the episode, we realize what C7 is and what it means. In a way, this episode could just as easily be referred to as The Tale of the Last Dance. It fits just as well, but we had to uncover the mystery of C7 in order to come to that realization. As for the story of this episode, well, it's clearly a tragic love story, and I absolutely loved it. This one kind of felt like the love story was the side aspect of the episode, as it focused on the more poltergeisty ghost story moments right up until the climactic reunion of the ghosts. It did a great job of unraveling the mystery of the jukebox and intertwining it with the ghost, and the way that they hinted to us about what Lisa was seeing without us actually seeing it was really cool storytelling, and it worked really well with the mystery. I loved this one. It's gotta be a 9 out of 10. And, like I mentioned, it did feel like it focused more on the ghosts, so this one did give us some really good scares. There was a lot of eerie camera work and uncomfortable line deliveries, not to mention the POV shots of the ghosts and the few ghost jump scares that we got. And of course the 3 mom jump scares, those are the most terrifying of horror. I'm thinking that this episode will get a solid 8 out of 10 for the scares. For some bonus points as well, there's a lot I loved in this episode, but let's start with the music. Every scene felt so perfectly scored, and multiple times in this episode, there were tracks that really stood out to me. So I'm gonna do 2 points for the music. Another point for the really cool camera work and lighting in this episode. I love all the twisty angles and purple lights. They were really cool. We'll do another for that rad ghastly grinner comic. You be careful not to put that in the microwave, Lisa. You hear me? Don't do it. Yeah, I'm sure she'll be fine. And I'll do a final point for the 3 mom jump scares. It was a great running bit, so that's 5 out of 5 bonus points, which will leave the tale of C7 as one of my favorite tragic love stories in this series, with a total score of 22 out of 25. Episode 7 puts us at the halfway point of the season, and at this peak of season 5, it's Tucker's turn to give us a story. I sure hope it's a good one, and not one of the weakest told stories in the entire series. that sure would be a shame. Anyway, this is the tale of the Manaha, a story of woods and monsters, and most of all, a troop of misfit summer campers. So, the biggest issue I have with this episode is the pacing. It starts off a little bit hard to notice, but it becomes more and more blatant as the episode progresses. But there are hints of that poor pacing even in the intro. We meet the troop, and it's all the expected troop tropes. One kid is a wimp, one is a slob, one is chubby, one is this guy, his Dave, I don't know, one is Dave. And then they have an instructor who clearly got a little bit too into JROTC and now just yells and acts like he's in a boot camp. I don't mind shows reusing classic tropes, but instead of taking a little bit of time to establish the characters, they have to instantly give you a rundown of their traits before we meet the final and most normal member of the troop, who's a boy named Jonah. The only 2 people that we need to know the names of in this episode are Jonah and the instructor Lonnie. Everyone else only gets hype man lines, and then we get scenes of the slob kid being gross and the chubby kid eating, like it's classic stuff, really. We do get another glimpse of that ghastly grinner comic, though, so, I mean, hey, this episode isn't all bad. But it is only a glimpse, leaving us longing for more. The troop is headed out on a spirit quest hike, and also they're heading to the ranger station. There's always so much going on, and it moves incredibly quickly, so their goal, it doesn't really matter. It all just gets thrown at us. We do meet the camp instructor briefly, and one thing I do know is that for sure, this dude has been on a few too many vision quests, judging by the way that he talks about them.
You boys are about to embark on a vision quest, a test of endurance, intelligence, and courage. None of you have ever spent a night in the forest. It's an experience you'll never forget.
A really important thing in this episode is Jonah's survival book, but man, they use this thing so poorly. They give us a few survival tips here and there, but it's so underplayed that by the time the important thing happens, so much more has gone on that it's hard to care about the book at all. Oh, and the author's name is Oscar Butts, so that's funny. There's some humor.
How to Survive in the Bush by Oscar Butts.
So on their vision quest, Lonnie shoves Jonah and causes his bag to fall down a steep slope. Lonnie forces Jonah to go get it, and while at the bottom, he finds the entrance to a hidden cave. I told you, things just sort of move, so try to keep up, and if you get confused, then know I am too. Alright, I'm also confused. In the cave, there are a bunch of paintings and an idol of some creature cradling his knees, and then this shaman appears out of nowhere.
Beware, the Manaha have returned. They have once again smelled the scent of human flesh, and they hunger. You must leave this place forever.
The rest of the troop climb down and join Jonah, but when they arrive, the shaman vanishes, so they don't believe Jonah about anything that happened, especially not these Manaha creatures that he suddenly keeps bringing up. But Lonnie does think that the idol will get them some good cash, so he grabs it to take it with them on the hike. Only it's really heavy, so he ends up just hiding it on the trail a little bit later and says he'll grab it on their way back from the vision quest. And now they go to the ranger station. I don't know why, but the ranger isn't there, and Jonah is convinced that the Manaha got him. But then the ranger just walks in. Turns out he was just out for a walk.
It's the Manaha! They got the ranger! We gotta get out of here!
Is there anything wrong?
Man, great job on that scream. Jonah really put his all into this one. So the troop head backs out, and while gathering firewood, we see something is stalking in the woods behind Lonnie. A bit later, we get one of those fun fast-forward point-of-view shots as something rushes at Lonnie, and he blows his whistle to try and get the troop to help him. They run into the woods, but Lonnie is now gone, and all they find is his whistle and this insane, giant footprint. So now, obviously the rest of the boys believe Jonah's Manaha stories, so they decide to run back to the ranger station for help. But as they leave, Jonah notices the giant footprint just disappears. So that's weird. The boys get to the station, but it's been ransacked and the radio has been completely destroyed. It must be the Manaha. But once again, as the boys run into the woods, Jonah notices as the station unransacks itself. Like, an attack never happened at all. Something weird is definitely going on here.
Guys, something really weird is going on.
Yeah, tell me about it.
The path in the forest is strangely blocked, and Jonah realizes that the Manaha are trying to trap the troop. So they just immediately split up. Like not a moment of hesitation. But don't worry, because all the boys instantly find each other again, except the chubby kid, who gets gotten by the Manaha. The troop goes after the chubby kid, and they end up finding the idol sitting on the path, and now it's glowing. And then Jonah has some weird realization, and it didn't make sense for him to have it all. It's so dumb. Like 10 minutes previously, Jonah read a chapter from that Butts guy, and in the survival book, it said the key to survival was knowing that fear is only in your mind. That's such terrible survival advice. Like, believing fear is only in your mind, ignoring all of your instincts that something terrifying is surrounding you or stalking you, or something bad might happen at your campsite. You know, like something might catch fire. You can have a fear of something catching fire. You can have a fear there's a bear around there. Those are valid fears. Those aren't in your head. Those are valid. Prepare for them. It's terrible advice. Oscar Butts should never sell another book. It's all in your mind. So now Jonah takes that lesson and he decides that it applies here somehow.
There's more going on here than we think.
He rushes into the woods where he just stumbles upon the kidnapped Lonnie, chubby kid, and ranger, and it turns out that the shaman from the cave was the bad guy the whole time.
I warned you to leave.
Now it is too late.
But Jonah has realized that he can use the power of the idol to control the Manaha. He uses them to scare the shaman until he runs back into the cave. And the shaman tries to defend himself, but Jonah is an expert in magic now.
Maybe you don't know as much about magic as you think.
Who knows how Jonah knows anything about magic? Maybe Butts is also a wizard and it's in the survival spell book. That's dumb. So Jonah puts the statue back and locks the shaman back into his magical cave prison, and then he leaves. Everyone gets back together, and we see that Jonah never actually controlled the Manaha at all, and it was just the other troop members pretending the whole time. And that's the end. Oh, and the mean instructor Lonnie learned his lesson, and he carries the bags now. So that's pretty funny, and that's the actual end. So yeah, I just didn't like this one very much. This episode, it needed another part or like half of the plot points that it has, because it moved so fast and tried to fit in so much that everything suffered in the end, and it just felt messy and at times really confusing. The way they defeat the monster is fine. I like the idea of pretending to use magic against a shaman, and I like the idea of not believing or not fearing something which will make that thing become not real. But the way we get to those story beats shouldn't have come from some random survival book, and it should have been outlined throughout the troop's hike or vision quest in some way. I don't know, I just felt like this whole thing was a bit rushed and it was off throughout the entire episode. So for the story, I'm only going to give it a 2 out of 10. It had some okay scares, nothing over the top or anything, but the woods were kind of spooky, and the Manaha stalking scenes were pretty scary. The shaman was also kind of scary. I just like how evil he is, but like I said, nothing was over the top, so I think we'll just go straight in the middle with a 5 out of 10. And I've only got one bonus point to give this episode, and that's for the Ghastly Grinner comic. It's a great callback, and, you know, it's just as fun as seeing some Zeebo props around, so 1 out of 5 bonus point, which will leave Tucker's final story with another pretty low score of 8 out of 25. Isn't it crazy that we've gone through more than half of the season without hearing from the Midnight Society's leader? Well, they're making up for that now, as first we get Tucker's impression of Gary.
Come on, guys, no fighting. The rules say no fighting, so no fighting.
So, Gar, what's your story about tonight?
It's about magic. I love magic, and you do too.
And then we get to hear from the man himself, with the tale of Badge. This one has a girl named Gwen who's got a younger brother named Trevor who seems to be the golden child of the family. It's Gwen's birthday. Actually, this whole episode is Gwen's birthday, so that's something to keep in mind. But despite it being cake time, Trevor walks in with a blue ribbon for something or another, and the family swoons to him with their praises. So Gwen's feeling a little bit bummed out.
How come he got all the brains, and all I get is ordinary?
But their grandmother comes in clutch with a gift and a quick bit of family history. The gift is this large red gem, which Granny pulls out of a box with the word badge on its top. And she calls this gem a jasper, and she says that when she was 16, her grandmother gave her a jasper, and her grandmother gave her one before, and, etc., going back as far as can be remembered. She's about to go over more history from their personal family history book, but Gwen's parents come marching in saying that Gwen's band teacher just called and informed them that she quit the band.
It wasn't any good.
Oh, you couldn't be more wrong. Music is your gift, I know.
So now the parents have to go meet with the band teacher, and it's also Granny's chess club night, so Gwen is forced to babysit her younger brother on her birthday.
Happy birthday, sweetie.
Thanks.
Trevor is a bit of a troublemaker, so he waits a whole 3 seconds before everyone's gone and Gwen gets distracted, and then he breaks into Granny's room and immediately goes for the badge box. He finds a flute and a crystal inside, but then he drops the crystal and makes a lot of noise, and then he decides to hide it outside the window instead of putting the box back in the drawer that he got it from. And then the box starts vaping, and the wind outside starts picking up as fog covers all the windows, and then the power goes out. And this part was so well done. It felt really creepy, because Gwen is slowly walking through the house, looking for Trevor, when she hears a knock coming from the front door. The whole scene has no music, so it's eerily quiet, and then this knock interrupts the quiet, and a man's voice calls out, asking if he can come in and saying that there's been an accident outside. But the voice is a little bit off. It speaks in occasionally jumbled words, and Gwen can't see anyone when she looks out of the peephole. So she yells that she's going to call the cops for help, but won't let the stranger in. The voice stays quiet, and then the doorknob starts to move. It's all such a great scene. It's intense and really feels like kids dealing with a stranger at the door. But when the knob moves, Granny's voice calls from the door saying that she forgot something, so this all must just be a false alarm. Gwen opens the door, and then... Badge grabs Gwen and demands she gives him something called the Setterwind. Gwen has no clue what he's talking about. This whole sequence was a bit funny as Trevor tries to come to the rescue, but his line delivery is just a bit off, and it made me laugh.
Let her go!
Where is it?
And then Trevor goes from hero to hostage in an instant, and Badge forces him through the front door void portal. So, good try, Trevor. We'll give him another ribbon for doing his best. Gwen follows Badge and Trevor through the void and ends up in Badge's garden, which is this strange dimension covered in vines and bubbling liquids. Oh, and hundreds of Badge's hanged dead victims. So, that's pretty rad. We get some monologuing from Badge and learn that he's been trapped for hundreds of years. And this is the first really good look at Badge that we get. And he is so cool. I love his design. Like, he's some rabid humanoid weasel. I love his yellow teeth and his eyes, how his left eye's kind of off and wonky. I love his strangely ordinary voice and the way that he jumbles up his words and the way he's always laughing and reveling in every moment. It's so great and such an awesome design. He's got to be one of my top favorite villains for the show. Anyway, Badge tells Gwen that the only way she'll get Trevor back is if she trades for the Setterwind, and then she's kicked out of the garden. Gwen tries the phone, but it's still not working, and then she starts to go looking through Granny's things to try and find some kind of help or clues as to how to defeat Badge. She ends up finding that history book that Granny was going to talk about her with, and inside is the history of all the Jasper wielders in their family. And these individuals are all known as Setterwinds. There's also a little incantation in the book, so that's pretty convenient, because now Gwen thinks that she has a way to re-trap Badge.
I can't believe this.
Gwen confidently walks back into Badge's garden and recites the incantation. And nothing happens. Well, her Jasper lights up a little bit, but nothing more than that.
Young you are, Setterwind power not yet strong.
Fortunately, Granny's chess club ended, so she's come back home and realizes that something is very wrong. She does some kind of something, I don't know, magic, and she's able to pull Gwen out of the garden, but in return she gets trapped inside in Gwen's place. But just before Gwen is pulled out, Granny gives her a little hint as to how to achieve her full powers.
Play the song, Gwen. Music is your gift. The song.
There's not a lot of episode left, so really quickly, Gwen has the mystery of what the song is, and then she looks at the box and realizes that the name Badge is written inside of a music stave. So she puts it together that Badge is the name, but also the notes that she has to play. It's a really fun mystery. I wish they let it breathe a little bit more, but I do still like it, even though it was a little rushed. Gwen plays the notes and reactivates the crystal prison, which drags Badge back inside.
We're going back in the box.
As soon as Badge is gone, Trevor walks back into the house, and then Granny does a second later and talks about how she and Gwen are guardians of Badge. And then she erases Trevor's mind, and that's it.
Hi, Willie. What's in the box?
Oh, nothing for a nosy little boy.
I love this episode, and most of that love comes straight from Badge. He's such a rad villain. He reminds me of Cutter with his mannerisms, like the way they both laugh and smile when fighting or when in these really tense situations. It's just such a fun type of villain. The story is pretty good, although it does have its issues. It moves pretty quick, and the story is very layered. It's much better done than the Manaha, but it's still got a case of biting off a little bit more than the story could chew. It still does give us a great bit of family lore with magic and an ancient bad guy that has a dimension-shifting garden, though, and I still had a great time watching it, so this one will be getting a 7 out of 10. I wouldn't say that this was the most scary of episodes, but it's got to be up there for the most intense episode. That door scene alone carried a lot of weight for me in that intensity, and then there's just everything that Badge says. It always feels like he's in control and he's already won. Otherwise, the hanging skeletons were pretty scary, and we'll combine all that for a total scare score of 6 out of 10. Now, for some bonuses. I liked a lot in this episode, and I really loved the garden set in general, so we'll do a point there. I'll do another for the badge music notes resolution. Like I said, it didn't get a lot of time to breathe, but it was a fun answer to the puzzle. And then I'm going to give 2 points to Badge for being one of my favorite monsters in the series. So 4 out of 5 bonus points, which will leave Gary's Tale of Badge with a total score of 17 out of 25. Kiki has always been the storyteller that's the hardest to describe her story style. She's had a few common character types and phrases that often get repeated in her stories, but the subject varies wildly, giving us anything from magic typewriters to demonic scarecrows. But it seems that she enjoyed telling the tale of the Closet Keepers last season, because we've got another story full of really strange sci-fi technology, and of course, aliens, with the tale of the unexpected visitor. A lot of this episode is centered around music, so it's good that our 2 main characters are 2 friends who love music and just started up a band together. We've got Jeff, who loves feeling the emotion of the synth, and Perch, who loves hearing the emotion of his guitar. Perch is also totally stonercore. The things he says are so funny sometimes.
I'm puking believable.
And in general, he's just kind of a goofball the entire episode. Just the sort of dude who only cares about music, and that's it. Well, Jeff's dad is also some kind of scientist who's working on a top secret project called the Peabody Project. What does this mean? Well, Jeff isn't really sure, but he knows that his dad works with satellites and he can use his home office to access any satellite in the entire world. So Jeff and Perch want to use it to stream a rock and roll concert. While they're setting up everything, they read a little bit about the Peabody Project and learn that it has something to do with deep space communication. But they can't get into the project yet because Jeff's little brother Bobby has just woken up and he's getting ready to tattletale to the parents that Jeff is in his dad's office, which he isn't supposed to be. Because, there's top secret space satellite stuff. Definitely no kids allowed here. So Bobby blackmails Jeff into making him a banana split, and while Jeff's doing that, Perch is left alone in the office full of satellite tech and super secret experiments. This is gonna go well. Perch just starts slapping buttons and eventually accidentally sets some coordinates to send a message to the other side of our galaxy. And when asking what message to input, Perch just reaches over to a keyboard and plays this little riff.
Absolutely.
He shoots it off into space, but unexpectedly, the screen flashes that his message was received, and then he gets a message in reply.
No way.
What was that?
I don't know.
This reply message is loud enough to get Jeff running in, but it doesn't seem like anything bad has happened. And just now the parents are home, so Jeff and Perch quickly clean up and dash out of the office before they get into any trouble. This episode uses some really solid cinematography throughout. The camera shots are usually really simple, but the flow of each scene was really well done, and there were some transitions that I thought were fantastic. That and the music in this episode being really sci-fi synth bass, it just made the whole episode feel a little bit bigger to me than an episode of a TV show normally does. It almost felt like a movie. I don't know, it was just really professional feeling for me for some reason. In the night, Jeff's dog Montana wakes up to a strange noise and wanders outside to figure out what it was. But out of nowhere, a glowing spiderweb snatches up the poor pooch. So the next day, Jeff and Perch go searching for the dog while Jeff's parents go out again. Jeff and Perch leave Bobby behind just in case Montana comes back, and they head together into the woods. Gold star if you can guess what happens to Bobby here. Did you guess yet? Because a few minutes later, we see another glowing spiderweb, and he's snatched up as well. Bobby's screams for help here were pretty frightening. He didn't do the best delivery, but it was still good enough for some decent intensity. Meanwhile, Jeff and Perch find Montana's toy right next to a doorway that's just sitting in the middle of the woods. Oh, I almost forgot. Jeff calls out, and he hears his own voice calling back to him from the woods. This kind of thing, it's so scary to me. Doppelgangers and clones, for whatever reason, they give me the heebie-jeebies so bad. So this was an especially effective scare for me.
Montana?
They do some tests with the door, and they find that they can throw things through it, but those things don't end up on the other side. It also plays that little riff that Perch sent out the night before, so this doorway is definitely from space. And a few minutes later, the objects that they threw in are thrown back complete and intact. This scares the boys, and they run right home. When they get there, they can't find Bobby, but they get distracted when they find that there are waiting messages on the deep space communications computer. Reading the messages shows that whatever received the signal was quickly getting closer, and the final signal has come from Earth. But just then, Jeff gets another message, and he's terrified to see another signal is incoming, and this time, it'll be here in just a few minutes.
There's another one coming. Some kind of invasion.
While Jeff was messing with computers, Perch went through the house searching for Bobby. We get more of the scary mimicry voice calls.
Yo, you in here?
And then, just like Bobby and Montana, Perch is snatched by a glowing spiderweb. Jeff comes out to find no Perch, no Bobby, and a charred up web, so he knows exactly where he needs to go. He runs into the woods to save his friends and dog. After testing the door in the woods, he decides to risk it, and he just heads right inside. When he goes through, he ends up in a whole room made of bright lights and white walls, and in the center is Bobby, Perch, and Montana just chilling in some strange tubes. This episode has been hinting a lot towards music for us, and Perch seems to have picked up on these clues as well, because he tells Jeff that this whole place is run on sound, and he's sure that a D sharp is the tone needed to release them from these tubes. So it's pretty funny because Jeff has to run back to the house, record a D sharp, and then run back. It's like just pure filler, nothing, but it was so frantic at the same time. I don't know, this little in-between scene, it made me laugh. Jeff gets back and he plays the D sharp, and just like Perch thought, the tubes lift and free the trapped boys and dog. They run out of the room, but there are now multiple webs all around them. Then the light starts to shine incredibly bright as the other spaceship arrives, and two figures appear before the boys and dog. It's so rad how the aliens start to make noises and slowly shift into languages and finally land on English so that they can communicate.
Parlez-vous français, Paruski? Viene de España? Your language is English.
Yeah.
They explain that the alien that got here before is just their child, and he came because of Perch's message. Well, it turns out that this riff in the alien language translates directly to "We're toys, come play with us." And that leads into Perch giving us maybe my favorite line in the entire series.
We are not toys, lady. We are people.
It's so rad, this dude telling off an alien with this insane line. Like, I love it so much, and it really solidified my love for Perch, the character in this. The aliens gather their son, and then they decide to leave Earth. But Jeff and Perch stick in contact with them through deep space communications, especially now that they've got some alien-inspired music to send to their galactical friends. And that's the end. Also, the song they play as the outro is the band song, and it's about how humans aren't toys for aliens, and it's such an awesome song.
Let's rock!
I don't know how this show keeps doing it, but each time we've gotten aliens, I just fall in love with the episode. I love the way they subvert the usual tropes of invasion or abduction and mostly make the aliens just seem weird and beyond our comprehension. This one is up there for me. It might be my favorite among the Alien episodes, but regardless, it is such a great watch. The story is fun and goofy, the characters are great, the story beats play out really fluidly and yet at the same time in weirdly unexpected ways. And the ending is, it's fantastic. For this one, I've got to do a 9 out of 10. It also did have some okay scares. The voices calling back, man, I hate that. But there were also some intense moments with Bobby screaming, or like when Jeff thinks that there's going to be an invasion. It's definitely not one that I can call a truly horrifying episode, but it still is decent, so I'll go with a 6 out of 10. So that just leaves the bonus points, and yeah, we're going with a full 5 out of 5. All the tech stuff was so fun. The music in the background was great. The music in the foreground was great with Perch and Jeff and the alien communications. I love the whole alien conversation at the end. It was interesting and weird. And then there's Perch, who alone deserves a point for all his goofy stoner moments. And honestly, the whole "we're not toys, we're people" line, that probably would have gotten this episode the full bonus points alone for me. It's such a good line. So yeah, 5 out of 5. So that will leave Kiki's The Tale of the Unexpected Visitor with a total score of 20 out of 25. And remember how I mentioned my fear of doppelgangers like so long ago? So long ago? Well, this season was a bit rough for me because the copycat voices from the aliens set me up for the perfect wombo combo of scares, as this next episode is all about transforming creatures who want nothing more than to take over the lives of the people around them. Betty Ann takes the storyteller's seat and gives us the tale of the Chameleons. And if you remember this episode, it's probably because of the main character. We're blessed with a little stardom as Tia Mowry from Sister Sister is our protagonist. It's pretty cool seeing her in this show. So, let's get on to the Chameleons. And there's no better place for that than a pet store. We watch as this little hooligan is just a menace to all the animals before Janice, that's Tia in this episode, tells the kid to stop and gets him away from one of the cages. Janice also has a friend named Sharon, who is the next main character, so we spend a lot of time with this duo. Inside the cage is... well, they call it a chameleon. It's not, at all. I used to work at a pet store, and I'm pretty sure this is a Chinese water dragon, but I know for sure that it's not a chameleon. But regardless, the menace boy tells the girls that this is a chameleon, and when Janice reaches in, it bites her on the finger, and then it dashes out of its cage, much to the menace boy's delight.
Bite you once, bite you twice, under the water, pay the price.
The lizard sneaks into a grocery bag that Janice's mom is packing into the car, so I'm sure we're going to see it again a little bit later. Once we get to the house, there's something else that I really gotta mention. We've got 2 returning characters in this episode. This series has used the same actors a few different times, so they must keep a great relationship with their talent, and we see that returning all the way from season 1 is Janice's dad, who previously played the older and older growing father in Kiki's Tale of the Captured Souls. He just plays the dad character so well. There's also Sharon, the best friend, who previously played one of the best performing characters in season 2 with her role as Jill in The Tale of the Final Wish. The one with Bobcat Goldthwait. I loved her in that previous episode, so it was really cool to see her pop up again in the end of the series. Anyway, now that we're home, we see the dynamic of the family a bit and learn that Janice is a little bit of a rebel. She wants some highlights in her hair, and she wants to wear a dress to an upcoming dance that the parents don't approve of. Just little rebellious moments sprinkled in that need to be mentioned for later scenes. Also, Sharon is staying the weekend with Janice and her family.
Can we have a nice, quiet, problem-free weekend?
No, we can't. It's never going to be problem-free until you let me grow up.
We see a couple shots of the chameleon as it seems to be stalking Janice. And that night, once she's in bed, Janice wakes up when the chameleon bites her a second time, this time on the stomach. She chases it into her bathroom, but then it transforms into her.
almost over. Bite you once, bite you twice. A little water, pay the price.
Sharon hears Janice freaking out, so she runs in to help and finds that Janice is alone in the room. The chameleon transformed back into a lizard and hid, but the next morning, Janice has a rash all over her stomach and she's come to the correct conclusion, but it just seems crazy when she starts to rant out loud about it.
It wasn't a dream. I'm turning into a chameleon, look!
Of course, Sharon doesn't believe her, and then when Janice is in the bathroom getting ready for the day, the chameleon, her, shows up again. But this time, she shoves Janice into the shower and adds the final step of the spell rhyme thingy by adding water, and we watch as Janice shrinks down and transforms into a chameleon.
I'm going to enjoy your life.
So now evil Janice is trying to pass as regular Janice, but she does so by suddenly shifting into being a bit of a goody-goody. She tells her parents they're right about the dress and about the highlights and promises to start listening to them more, which the parents love, but Sharon immediately thinks is strange. Evil Janice also places a delivery and receives a box a little bit later, but she won't tell Sharon what's in the box, and she's really protective of it. During this next bit, the turns table a bit as we see regular Janice, who's now a chameleon, I hope this isn't confusing, start stalking evil human Janice and looking for opportunities to bite her. And at the same time, Sharon is realizing that something is wrong with her friend. Oh, yeah, especially since she watches her just swallow a goldfish whole. Sharon sneaks into the room and uncovers the box where she finds a whole family of chameleons. Evil Janice realizes that Sharon is catching on, and so they sit down and talk for a second, where the chameleon mentions how there are thousands of her kind already among the human race, so there's no stopping them. Just then, chameleon Janice sneaks up and gets a bite off on evil human Janice.
Who are you? It's me. I'm Janice. Don't you recognize me? You're the chameleon! There's nothing you can do.
So evil human Janice yeets the chameleon into the disposal. She nearly chops it up, but Sharon realizes that this lizard is actually the real Janice, and she saves her at the very last second. Then, Sharon grabs the box full of chameleons and runs outside, where she threatens to throw all of evil Janice's family into the backyard well. But it turns out that this was just a ploy, as when evil Janice gets her hands on the box of lizards, she gets bit for a second time, and chameleon Janice transforms back into a human. And then we get the classic mix-up who do I shoot scene. Sharon grabs the hose, but the two Janices fight and she can't tell which one she should shoot with the water. She's worried that if she shoots regular Janice, she'll turn back into a chameleon, since we're using, unknown sciences here. But as a final way to convince Sharon, one of the Janices grabs the box of chameleons and tosses them all into the well.
Wait! I can prove that I'm the real Janice! Only the real Janice would do this! No! It's a trick! It's really me, Sharon!
So Sharon sprays the other Janice and transforms her into a chameleon, and then they toss that one into the well with the others. And it's a totally happy ending. Just kidding, because that night Janice comes back to the well alone and pulls up with a bucket to show all the chameleons resting inside. Well, all except for the Janice chameleon, which they left down there to drown.
I hope she knows how to swim.
I do love a bad ending. Like, it's so rad when a bad guy wins in these episodes. I thought this one was pretty fun, but it was also kind of forgettable. It just didn't quite have that secret sauce that a lot of these episodes have that push them into, like, the greatness of my mind. I think if the twin sisters weren't in this episode, it would probably just be completely forgotten. It's a fun idea and the story unfolds okay. There's some good suspense and mystery, and the ending is probably my favorite part. but I don't know, it just didn't quite grab me like I was hoping. So I'm gonna go with a midline 5 out of 10 for the story. It was a little bit scary. You guys know how I feel about doppelgangers, so that stuff alone kind of chilled me. But there were some good scares, like the chameleon crawling under Janice's covers. It reminded me of that scene from The Grudge, and then Janice being transformed into a chameleon was pretty scary, and the whole ending gave you that feeling of dread that you get when you learn, that Janice is being left to die down there. Like, she's gonna drown. So that's all pretty good stuff. I'm thinking this one's going to be a 7 out of 10, just because, I hate doppelgangers. I will do 2 bonus points for the cast of this one. It was fun seeing the twins, and then Jill and the dad returning were also really great. And I'll do another point for that bad ending. So 3 out of 5 bonus points, which leaves Betty Ann's final story, The Tale of the Chameleons, with a total score of 15 out of 25. This next episode is another one told by Kiki, this one teaching lessons about greed and the value of life. So far this season has had some really great stories and tackled incredibly difficult concepts, like escorting the dead through the afterlife, or discovering that the dead prisoner that's haunting you isn't actually the bad guy and is just trying to get some help for him and his family's closure. Well, Kiki is continuing this trend with this story, The Tale of the Vacant Lot, as we learn that things that we don't often appreciate can be the things that we truly value the most. And there's no better character to showcase this than Catherine, the lead of the story and the most average girl that you could ever imagine.
Another average performance from average old Catherine.
She tries her best to make the track team, but she's just not fast enough, so that's a bummer. She also runs into this cute boy on the soccer field, so we know what's on her mind, and we can also see what's on her head. It's one of the worst hats I could imagine. A green felt bowler hat. Some poor pool table was skinned to make this thing. Oh man. The world seems to hate this hat just as much as I do, because the wind blows it off of Catherine's head and forces her to chase after it until she comes across a strange shop in an otherwise vacant lot. It's so cool how the scene changes once Catherine steps into the shop. She's clearly drawn to it for some reason, and once inside, the outside world is just completely cut off. The background is now just light and blowing sheets, and the music becomes really intriguing and wondrous. Something about this place takes over Catherine's entire focus, and they did a great job of showing that to us through the scene change. The shopkeep is a woman named Marie, and she keeps her face covered, but we can see hints of odd boils and sores along her mouth and hands. She offers Catherine anything that she could possibly desire, and then pulls out a pair of running shoes that she says will guarantee that Catherine makes the team. She says that she knows what it's like to be just an average girl because she was once like Catherine. She also only deals in trades, no cash. At first, she wants Catherine's ring that she got from her grandfather, but it's too precious to Catherine, so Marie offers to trade in exchange for something that Catherine sees no value in.
If it has no value to you, you won't miss it.
The deal is struck, and the wind blows, leaving Catherine standing in the vacant lot with her brand new shoes. The next day, Catherine is Speedy McGee and easily makes the track team. But when her friend comes to congratulate her, Catherine's personality shifts, and she suddenly becomes really snotty.
How'd I do it? I'm fast and you're slow. That's how I did it. So, looks like you're not as special as you thought.
And then in the mirror, she sees a sore appear on her face, but it's only on her reflection. The cute boy from earlier, we learn is named Eric, and he saw Catherine run, and he likes that.
Man, you're quick.
Thanks.
But Eric is already with a girl right now, so Catherine gets all bummed. But then she realizes that there's a certain disappearing shop that gives magic items, so maybe it can help her with her boy problems. I love this logic. It's just the first step we see of Catherine becoming addicted to this store. She's got a taste, and now she's seeing the potential for all of her problems being solved. She makes another trade for something to help with Eric, and Marie accepts, taking something that Catherine sees no value in, and giving her like a Peter Pan outfit, and everybody loves it. But once again, her personality changes, and she no longer has any patience for her younger sister, Joyce.
I guess you're just stupid.
What? Where are you going? We were having fun.
Fun? Tutoring an idiot? Go to the library and help yourself and leave me alone.
And we only see a glimpse of her ugly reflection for a moment before she shatters a mirror, so things are definitely getting worse. The next day, she starts seeing Marie pop up everywhere, offering her things constantly and promising to make Catherine beautiful just like she desires.
I was beautiful once too. But now... surely there must be something more you want. Perhaps these.
Catherine is finally starting to catch on to what's going on, and she runs away from Marie, only to bump into cute boy Eric once again, and when Marie magics some concert tickets into her hand, Catherine accepts the gift and asks Eric on a date, which he happily agrees to.
Great, I'll pick it up around 9, is that okay?
Can't wait.
At this point, Catherine is completely lost. She can't find anything to wear, so she runs to the vacant lot and begins taking everything from the shop. She never thinks about what she's really giving up in return, and it's gonna come to bite her. This time, it's even worse, because after the shopping spree, she finds out that Joyce followed her to the shop and made the same deal that she's been making, giving everything for a trade of something that they don't find value in. And the personality change is there too, because Joyce is all snotty now as well.
Well, now it's time to get what I want. Enjoy your date.
Fearing the worst, Catherine looks at her reflection again, but this time it shows an image of Marie. She laughs before transforming and transferring all of her ugliness right onto Catherine. Catherine runs out in a panic and sees Joyce is in the exact same state.
Catherine, what's happening?
At this point, Eric shows up for the date, but we've got way bigger problems. Catherine runs back to the shop and returns all of the things she took, begging Marie to return the things that she traded away. But Marie's all beautiful now, and she finally tells Catherine the thing that she's slowly taking with every trade.
I took your life.
We get Marie's story, and it's eerily similar to Catherine's. Marie was average and wanted to be more. She didn't see the value in the life that she had or the good things about her, and then she stumbled upon a strange shop with a mysterious shopkeep who traded her everything that she would ever want, until eventually she took everything and left Marie in the shop to try and do the same. But now Marie is finally free from the curse of this place, and she's leaving Catherine and Joyce to take her place. But Catherine begs her to give Joyce her life back. She says that she can handle the consequences of these trades, but Joyce was innocent. And in exchange for this, Catherine offers her precious ring, which Marie still really wants.
I always get what I want.
Then, suddenly, the shop starts going crazy and the wind picks up and Marie transforms again until she's all ugly. And then the shop disappears and leaves Catherine alone and back to her average self. I don't really know why this happens. I don't know why Marie loses here, but Catherine has a little bit of a theory.
What happened to Marie?
I think she wanted too much.
Kind of lazy, but whatever. Catherine and Joyce head home, and Eric, the most patient kid in the world, is fine that Catherine no longer has tickets, and he still wants to have that promised date. And that is where the story ends. Something that I found really cool about this episode is that it feels like a culmination of a lot of different stories that we've heard in the series already. To me, this one feels like Kiki was almost making an homage to some of the other stories. We've got temptations, like in David's Tale of the Dark Dragon. We've got a mysterious shop full of magical but dangerous items, just like a certain shop owned by Gary's favorite recurring magician. We've got making wishes that go awry, like in the Tale of the Twisted Claw, and beauty-sapping magics, like in this season's Tale of the Mystical Mirror. It's just fun seeing some of these themes and story beats coming out and imagining how Kiki wrote this, thinking about all the great stories that we've all shared around the fire. This is Kiki's last story, so I'm definitely reading into this way more than I should be, but hey, that's like kind of what I've been doing this whole series, so it's on brand for me. I did really like this story. In fact, I think it's one of Kiki's best. I love Catherine's entire arc. I love the mysterious shop and Marie the shopkeep, and how we can see Catherine slowly succumbing to the temptation of this place as the episode goes on. The only thing in the story I didn't love was whatever happened to defeat Marie. It was just a little unclear and was wrapped up really fast. It was kind of just a, well, she's greedy, I guess, the end. But even with that little hiccup, in the end I've got to give this one an 8 out of 10. It was a tiny bit scary. We got a little body horror. We got some shocking moments with the reflections and with Marie. But I mean, otherwise it was pretty light, so I'll only be doing 3 out of 10 for the scares. And as for bonuses, I loved everything with the shop. How the scene change was really cool, and the music was beautiful, and the scenes in the shop in general had a bit of a weird air to them, which I really liked. So I'll give that 2 points, and I'll do one more for the Peter Pan outfit because I thought it was really funny. So 3 out of 5 bonus points, which leaves Kiki's final story, The Tale of the Vacant Lot, with a total score of 14 out of 25. Well, Midnight Society, we're down to the final 2 episodes, and for this one we get to hear from the leader of the group. Gary has taken us on a lot of magic-filled misadventures, so having one more before the series close, it's such a treat. And there's one more treat in this episode for us as well that most of you probably already know, but I won't say what it is quite yet, just to keep the surprise for anyone who might not be aware. So let's sit by the fire and enjoy Gary's final story, The Tale of a Door Left Unlocked. There are a lot of characters, a lot of sets, and this story takes place over multiple days, so it's a pretty layered episode. For some setup, our main kid is named Justin, and he's got a really super duper cool friend named Ben who's super good with the ladies. I mean, he wears a leather jacket and sunglasses around everywhere he goes, so he's the literal definition of cool guy. In a classic way to poke at Tucker, Gary's story has a very familiar feeling younger brother named Michael. He and Justin have so many similarities between Gary and Tucker. It's the most blatant homage to the storyteller counterparts that we've had so far.
Want to buy a little brother? Nah, I already got a wizard.
A very important thing about Michael is that he has a little club where if new friends want to come and join, they have to go into an abandoned house and sit inside of the master bedroom. It's mentioned briefly at the beginning, but this doesn't become relevant until much later on. So, Justin and Ben are all about the ladies right now. There's a school dance coming up and Justin is way too nervous around girls to ask anyone out, but Ben doesn't have that problem. In fact, as they're walking down the sidewalk, he sees a cute girl and decides that this is his chance. He shoves Justin into a random shop so that he can have a one-on-one shot with this girl, and Justin watches through the window as Ben masterfully flirts it up, and then he says that he would give anything to be able to do the same. And when he says that, we get the reveal of that little treat I hinted at earlier.
Man, I'd give anything for the guts to do that.
What was that? I didn't quite hear. You'd give anything for what?
Sardo is back! Last we saw he was journeying with Dr. Vink, but the magical shopkeep is the same as ever, correcting kids on his name.
No, mister. Accent on the dough.
Trying to sell his tempting wares.
Have you seen our vomit?
And getting undersold on his rare magical items. This time he sells Justin a very tiny door and says that it's a one-of-a-kind item that can help you peer into the future. While Sardo takes a phone call, Justin tries out the door, asking it to show him a girl that would say yes to him if he were to ask her to the dance. And then, a little window in the door opens and shows a girl surrounded by fog. So, apparently the door works, and Sardo's got himself a deal. Well, a very low-balled deal.
And it's a steal at $64.95.
What?
Oh, but wait! Today's sale day. It's only $44.95.
I can't afford it.
$24.95?
I've only got 10.
Sold. But I'm losing on the deal.
This has to be the most he's been talked down on an item, right? Like it's going down from 65 to 10. That's a nat 1 of a persuasion roll if I've ever heard one. I wonder how much Sardau's lost out on. That could be kind of fun to look at someday, actually. Oh, I also have to mention, since this episode is kind of about boys who want to try and find love, we get a little bit of heartbroken Sardau here, and it's fantastic.
Okay, I got this thing with girls.
Don't we all?
Who hurt you, Sardau? Who hurt you? Even though Sardau said the door was a one-of-a-kind, the moment Justin leaves with it, he pulls out another tiny door that looks exactly the same. He's a sneaky magician. Justin wants to see that girl again, so he asks the girl, and once again it opens, although this time it shows a little bit more. The girl goes into a room, and that fog we saw earlier turns out to actually be smoke. She's screaming to find someone named Brad, and Justin notices she's also wearing a school jacket before she turns and screams as a burning ceiling collapses on top of her. After school, Justin is walking by Sardau's shop and he sees that second tiny door, so he goes in to confront the wizard, who once again just fails all his attempts at hiding anything of significance.
The doors are a match set, and so you see they are one of a kind. Both of them, sort of. All right, there are two of a kind, so sue me.
Asking about the doors, Sardau says that the woman who sold them to him said that they would show small glimpses into the future, but he doesn't really know anything else, and he refuses to take responsibility for magical items that no longer belong to him, so he tosses Justin out of the store. Also, we get this quick, great line.
But I saw a girl.
Consider yourself lucky. Well, good day.
The next day at school, there's a new student, and what do you know? It's that girl Justin's been seeing through his tiny door. We learn her name is Ashley, and she just moved to town with her little brother Brad. Brad has also become quick friends with Justin's brother Michael, but Justin isn't having as much luck with Ashley. He can't get over the fact that he saw her in a burning building, so he constantly mentions fire to her.
Have you ever been trapped in a burning building?
No. What kind of question is that?
Man, I gotta add that as one of my pickup lines. And then at one point, her friends are celebrating with Ashley and someone lights some candles, so Justin takes action and pours a pitcher of water all over Ashley, and he tries to explain, but he just comes across sounding beyond insane.
I saw it through my little door.
Now, Ashley is also wearing that school jacket we saw, so the future of the door seems to be coming to fruition. So now we're going to wrap all the way back to the beginning. Justin's brother Michael has that club, and now Brad is trying to become a new member. He's told to go into the abandoned building and sit inside of the master bedroom. And they did a decent little scare here when the covered furniture all comes to life. It's just kids in sheets pretending to be ghosts, but it was a pretty fun little scene. Also, Michael has a candle. That's cool. Ashley calls Justin's house asking if he knows where Brad is, but Justin doesn't, so she says she'll just have to search around for him. In the meantime, Justin tries messing with the little door and discovers a side compartment with a key inside that says the word "in" on it. He then looks through the door and sees the familiar scene of Ashley, only he realizes now that Brad must have gone into that abandoned house, so the future of the door isn't really the future anymore.
This isn't the future. This is right now.
We see Ashley enter the house, but Brad and his friends all sneak out so they don't get any trouble. But while they sneak, Michael drops that candle and starts the fire that we've been seeing. Ashley is alone in the house, and as Justin watches the familiar scene unfold, he decides to try and take action. He uses the in key on the door, and he finds himself transported into the scene with Ashley.
Ashley! Justin? Look out! Where did you come from?
He saves Ashley from the collapsing roof, but they both end up trapped inside of the basement with nowhere to go. He tries the door, but it's only for going in, which means that the door for going out must be linked to the door in Sardau's shop. Justin tries shouting for help, and we see a confused Sardau looking around his shop, trying to correct the spirits on how to pronounce his name.
Sardau, help us! Help us!
That's Sardau. No, mister. Accent.
Hurry, please!
That's it. I'm changing my name. It's finally driven me out of my mind.
After arguing with the spirits for a few seconds and seeing smoke coming from his tiny door, Sardo realizes what's happening, and he follows Justin's instructions to reveal the key and unlock the door out. And when he does, Justin and Ashley are transported into Sardo's shop, and they're safe from the fire. As this episode wraps up, we get a quick gag that there's actually a third door, and then we see that Justin was able to ask Ashley to the dance, and that's where this episode ends. I mentioned in the beginning how this episode is a lot more layered and complex than a lot of the other stories we've seen, but it's also told really well, and it does such a good job of not jumbling information together, so each story beat is really easy to follow and understand. It's a fun concept with the whole idea of the future that you try to prevent is actually the one that you're causing. Plus, it was pretty funny, and I loved the door teleporting aspect. It came in at the end, but it still fit with the idea of the magic. It's a great little adventure with a cute bit of a love story, all tying it together. I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. However, oh boy, this one was not really scary. They had that little ghost moment, and then being trapped in a burning building. Like, being trapped in a burning building, that's scary in real life, so that should factor in, I guess. But this one really was more of a magic-filled adventure rather than a scary story. I'm just gonna go with a 2 out of 10. And for some bonuses, we've got to give one to Ben for being the coolest cat in town. I'll give another for how much Michael and Justin reminded me of Tucker and Gary. I just like that aspect of the story a lot. And we gotta give 2 points for the mad magician, Sardo. I normally only give him 1 point just because I like him, but I'm giving him 2 this time because he has some incredible lines in this episode. So that's gonna be 4 out of 5 bonus points, which will leave Gary's final story, The Tale of a Door Left Unlocked, with a total score of 14 out of 25. And here we are, the final episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Well, at least the original series. I just want to take a quick second to say thank you so much for watching these videos. Thank you so much for hanging out with me as we've reminisced about this amazing show. Reliving some of these episodes has been incredible, but because of these videos, I've been able to talk with some of you and hear your memories. I've loved hearing how this show scared so many of us, or how it's influenced our passions and interests. I had no idea how much people still thought about and loved this show, but it definitely deserves it. So, thank you again, and now let's give the stage to Sam as she tells us our final story, The Tale of the Night Shift. As you might expect by the name, The Tale of the Night Shift is about the night shift crew at a hospital. There are quite a few characters that we'll meet, but mostly we follow a girl named Amanda who is incredibly busy with working and school. We also meet a kid named Colin who is friends with Amanda, and he's getting ready to get his tonsils out the next day, so he's actually a patient at this hospital. And then there's the janitor Felix, who we start out following as his boss gets all mad at him for losing a package, and just listen to what he calls Felix as an insult.
But the thing is huge. Find it, Zebo. Or find yourself another job.
I love this as an insult, calling him Zebo instead of clown or whatever. It just works so well. It's such a great addition to this little universe, of this little world. Amanda gets up to the kids' wing where she works, and it's instantly hectic.
I'm sorry I'm late.
Ruby won't take his meds. His Ruby's got a fever. Number 7's in pre-op for bright and early. And number 5 wants her mommy.
I thought the night shift was supposed to be quiet.
The limited staff have to watch over a lot of patients, so they are always busy and generally only see each other in passing occasions. Amanda's boss introduces her to a new intern named Margot, but things are a bit too crazy at the moment, so they both split ways for now. We see Felix head into the basement to try and find the missing package, but all he finds is a cute girl who calls to him to follow her. The charms are too strong for Felix to deny, so he heads around the corner, only for us to get hit with this freaking jump scare.
You know, I don't think we're supposed to.
Jump scares can be seen as pretty cheap scares, but I will say this one was pretty well done, and it definitely fits the episode, so it's one of the good jump scares. Back upstairs, Colin is trying to get Amanda to agree to go on a date with him, Meanwhile, Amanda's coworkers sees a patient run into a nearby lab, so she's got to chase after her.
Are we playing hide and seek?
She looks everywhere for the girl, but it's so creepy and like a little bit funny because we see that same green-faced monster sneak in behind the coworker when she walks off. The next time we see this coworker, she's acting a bit strange.
Threat?
I mean, as someone who has worked multiple years as a night shifter, let me just say, I get it. Zombie mode just becomes life after a while. Amanda sees Margot taking care of a wheelchair kid, so the intern is fine, and she finally forces Colin to leave her alone for a few minutes so that she can get some people to bed. Real quick, I want to mention how rad this setting is. A hospital at night, it's so scary already, and we've got the addition of some kind of monster roaming around, and I just thought of a Scrubs reference that I'll make in a little bit because it's a little bit of a spoiler, but hey, if you're a Scrubs fan, then I guess that's something to be excited for. Could really catching the Scrubs fans in this Are You Afraid of the Dark video. A bit later, Amanda is walking the halls when Colin tells her that his roommate went to wander a little bit ago, but he hasn't come back. So they head together to go and find the missing kid, but they're forced to hide inside of a closet when Amanda's supervisor walks around the corner. She's not supposed to have a patient out of bed or something, so she didn't want to get in trouble, and that's why they hid. But inside the closet, Colin realizes they're stepping on something strange, and Amanda looks down to see a bunch of empty blood bags.
What are they?
Blood storage bags.
Yuck. Looks like a rat got them. Why do they keep them in here?
They don't.
Alright, so now it's time to go to the supervisor. They bring the empty blood bags, but we notice that the supervisor is acting a little bit weird, a bit like a zombie, and a bit like she got bit. Because on her neck, we see the unmistakable marks of a vampire bite. A vampire in a hospital at night. Dr. Acula. That was the Scrubs reference. It was Dr. Acula the whole time. You get the doctor and you throw the period away and you put them together and it makes, boom, Dracula. Vampire in a hospital. There you go. Oh, I'm losing it. Amanda and Colin are still looking for the missing kid, and they end up walking into the morgue. They don't find the missing kid, but they do find a body, and they remove the sheet to show us that Felix is dead, and they show his body. Alright, so he clearly moves his eyes, but he's supposed to be dead. And they just show us his dead body completely with the same bite mark we saw in the supervisor. Of course, when they leave the room, we do see Felix sit up, so don't worry, guys. Nickelodeon didn't show us a real dead body there. Alright, I know I got you worried for a second. When Amanda and Colin get back to the wing, it's oddly empty. There are no kids or staff running around, and when the head of the hospital shows up, also acting weird, both Amanda and Colin decide that they should just leave the hospital. But when they try to leave, Felix shows up in the stairwell and chases them, even though he's sorta dead.
Felix, but you're
Dead? Sorta.
How can you be sorta dead?
Oh, it's not so bad, really. You'll soon find out for yourself.
They fight for a minute, but Felix is actually able to stop himself from fully succumbing to his transformation. And as he's fighting his own vampirism, he starts telling Amanda about how there is a vampire in the hospital and how it's been slowly taking over everyone. It turns out that Felix was the very first victim, and the vampire accidentally drank too much blood, so it sent him into the fast track of becoming a vampire. That's why we're seeing it happen to him, but everyone else are just becoming zombies. Felix's character is really well done in this episode. Like, I love how they made his lips a little bit blue since he's dead now, but he also does a great job of fighting against himself and showing small glimpses of his inner battle the entire episode. He's in a really tragic circumstance, and this kid acts his heart out the entire time. He begs Amanda to find a way to stop his transformation, and he has an idea of how they might be able to do so. Felix takes the other two to the basement, where he shows them the vampire's coffin, and says that if they destroy it, that will also destroy the vampire. This is also the first time they say vampire in this episode. It was supposed to be like a little bit of a mystery, but I mean, showing a vampire bite is the next best thing to just showing a vampire, so we'll just mystery solved.
It's a vampire, Amanda. And it's hunting in the hospital.
Get out of here. There's no such
You
thing.
want me to prove it to you?
They get ready to drag the coffin into the furnace, but then Margot suddenly shows up and she makes it pretty obvious that she's the vampire, and now it's her time to feed.
Vampires only need to feed about every 50 years or so. And isn't a hospital a great place for it?
She also transforms into the green-faced monster we've seen a few times now.
We haven't been properly introduced yet.
Amanda and Colin make a break for it because the vamp decides to just go after Felix. They just leave him. Like, yeah, there's nothing they could have done, but man, they have no remorse. It's crazy. Felix deserves better, man. But now, with only two of them, and every exit blocked by vampire zombies, Amanda and Colin are forced to come up with a plan. Since Amanda isn't quite strong enough to move the coffin by herself, she decides that she'll use herself as a distraction, while Colin drags the coffin into the furnace. She runs past a few zombies to get Margot's attention, and it's so spooky how Margot just pops up as she chases Amanda throughout the hospital.
Tell your friend I'll be upstairs. Tell me yourself.
Amanda ends up running to the roof, but Margot is not too far behind.
There's no use in running.
I'm far too good a hunter.
In the meantime, Colin is struggling with the coffin when Felix shows up again, but this time he's a full-on vampire. They fight for a second, but just like last time, Felix is able to fight his vampire nature, and he ends up helping Colin with the coffin. Back on the roof, Margot catches Amanda and dangles her over the side of the building, and I love how evil this vampire is. Just listen to the threat here.
I shall drop you and then lick up what's left.
I'm gonna drop you and lick up what's left? What? Dude, that's so dark and visual, like such an evil thing to say, that you'll lick up someone's gore when they're splattered on the ground. Jeez, man, this vampire is crazy. Fortunately, that doesn't happen, as just before the vampire can kill Amanda, Colin and Felix shove the coffin into the furnace and cause the vampire to explode into flames. It falls from the roof, and we get a really funny shot of a burning mannequin before Amanda heads back inside. And now, everything is back to normal. All the kids and staff are running around, and no one but her and Colin and Felix remember what happened. Also, Felix is a human again, so he got a good ending, and that's all I could really ask for. And, well, that's the end. But it's not all the way the end. I have talked about the Midnight Society members a few times, but I have to talk about this final scene. It won't affect the score of the story, so don't worry about that. But as they finish the story, all the members of the club leave except for Sam and Gary. Since Sam's introduction to the group, Gary has had an obvious crush on her, and as the seasons continue, they grew closer and closer, and now they're here. Gary asked her out, and at first, Sam said no. She said she was too busy, she had too much going on, she couldn't be in a relationship, and that caused her to write The Tale of the Night Shift, a story of a girl too busy to find fun in her life, and vampires and stuff too. But when she finished the story, she realized that she was just afraid of taking a chance. So she and Gary decide to give it a shot. And it's so cute because they just sit at the fire, and instead of putting it out, they decide to watch the flames for just a little bit longer. And with that, the original series of Are You Afraid of the Dark ends. I'm not crying, you're crying. I'm not crying. But I'll say, I think Sam was saving her best for last because I absolutely love this episode. Being the final story in the series meant that my expectations were really high, and I will happily admit that this episode met those expectations and more. It's not the best episode in the series, but for an ending, it is pretty perfect. I love the setting and all of the characters. Each scene feels really chaotic, but as the story progresses, I love how that chaos calms because the people around Amanda are slowly disappearing. Then there's Felix's whole story, which is just fantastic all around. I had a great time watching the entire episode, so I'm happy to give this story a full 10 out of 10. It also was pretty scary. We had a few good jump scares, some really good eerie moments, some great vampire stalking creepy stuff. The vampire in general is a super scary design, and I think Margot as a human had some equally scary moments when she would just like pop up here and there. I also think that this vampire might be the most evil monster we've seen so far. The way she talks about death and killing people, she's so casual with it. And then we get other moments when she's like, I'm gonna drop you and eat you from the pavement. Like, she's fully aware of what she's doing and she loves doing it. She's big time evil. So with that in mind, I'll be giving this one an 8 out of 10 for the scares. And that just leaves us with some bonus points. I'm gonna do 1 for Felix. I'm so happy he got a good ending, but man, he had it rough. I'll do another for the setting of this one. Like I said, I love the vampire in a nighttime hospital idea so much. It's so fun. I'll do 1 more for that small Zeebo mention we got at the beginning, and I'll give a final point for the vampire being just plain evil and reveling in it. So that's going to be 4 out of 5 bonus points, which leaves Sam and the final episode, The Tale of the Night Shift, with a total score of 22 out of 25, and ending the original series with an incredible story. And here we are, another season behind us and a beautiful ending to an amazing show. It's crazy to me how good this series stayed. There are episodes from each season that I think about all the time, and this rewatch has deepened my appreciation for how much effort they put into every single story. So now, let's talk about the stats and figure out the best scares and stories in this season, as well as in the entire original series. I want to start off just talking about season 5 stats, and then we'll bring it all together with the other seasons to get our full series rankings. As with the previous seasons, I've kept a running total of everyone's story, scare, bonus, and total points. In this season, every member of the Midnight Society got to tell 2 stories, except for Kiki, who was able to tell 3 with the tales of the Jagged Sign, the Unexpected Visitor, and the Vacant Lot. My least favorite story of the season once again goes to Tucker with the tale of the Manaha, which bit off way more than it could handle and caused the story to suffer, earning it a score of 2 out of 10. But there were 2 stories that tied with scores of perfect 10 out of 10s this season. Sam's Tale of the Night Shift and Stig's Tale of Station 109.1. If I had to choose a favorite between the 2, I'd have to go with Station 109.1 for this one. It was so cool and weird, and topped off with little Ryan Gosling and Gilbert Gottfried. It was a great story. The least scary story of the season goes to Kiki, who really harnessed her inner Kristen and gives us a tragic love story that was really well told, but just not scary, and it only scored a 1 out of 10. On the other hand, oh boy, Stig came in swinging with the tale of the Dead Man's Float, giving us one of the scariest monsters and really messing with my childhood fear of things hiding in deep water. And his story earned that perfect 10 out of 10. Taking all the points together and adding up all the story, scare, and bonus points, my least favorite episode of the season goes to Tucker with the Tale of the Manaha, which only totaled an 8 out of a possible 25. But then we've got the best storyteller this season, and I will say, I did not expect that we'd get such great episodes from Sam. She told 2 stories this season, the tales of C7 and The Night Shift. Each story was unique, well told, decently scary, and oh my goodness did they score well. Sam tied herself for first place. Both of her stories got scores of 22 out of 25. So she definitely gets the title for my favorite episode in the season, and if I had to choose between her two stories, I think I'd say that The Tale of the Night Shift wins by just a hair. And now, we've got all the numbers. 65 stories over 5 seasons told between 10 different storytellers in one amazing run of television. So let's put it all together and find out the best scary storyteller in Are You Afraid of the Dark? I've loved watching these numbers all come together. It's been so weirdly interesting for me. And now that it's all done, I've got to say this has been such a fun project to work on. So let's start off with my least favorite story of the entire series. The Tale of the Midnight Ride, Tucker's very first story and the one episode that I would happily remove from the show if given the chance. It scored the only 1 out of 10 for story in the entire series, and I have not changed my mind on it. It was a bad episode. My favorite story is a little bit harder to determine. There were a few that scored 10 out of 10s, but my top 2 have to be either Station 109.1 or The Ghastly Grinner. Both of these are super different from each other, but they both have so much style and intrigue. I love them so much. If I had to choose between them, I think I'd have to give it to The Ghastly Grinner, but man, it's by the tightest of margins. As for the least scary story of the series, well, that's another tough one. We've had a few score the lowest possible 1 out of 10, but I think the choice comes between either Kiki's Tale of the Jagged Sign or Sam's Tale of the Dream Girl. They're both just not really scary. I think the Jagged Sign is the lesser of the two, but once again, it's just picking between love stories and not really horror stories at this point. For the scariest stories, I had 3 that tied with horrifying 10 out of 10s. That's The Tale of Watcher's Woods, The Dead Man's Float, and The Crimson Clown. Obviously, last season, Crimson Clown won over Watcher's Woods, so now it's just trying to decide between the fear of psychological dream-entering clown warfare and blood-covered zombie skeleton that's trying to drown me in the bathtub. The consensus is pretty clear based off of the comments that I've gotten, that most people find the Tale of the Dead Man's Float to be the scariest in the entire series, like without a doubt. The most common comment tends to be about how bad this episode messed people up, and I do agree that it's very, very scary. But for me, the Tale of the Crimson Clown is a little bit scarier. Not only is the clown scary, but we get to see it do so many horrifying things throughout the episode. We see everything from jump scares to dream entering and nightmare creating. We've got that big long arm coming from the TV, the exploding head part. There's just so much variety to the scares that with the Crimson Clown, you'd never be safe. So for me, the scariest episode has got to be The Tale of the Crimson Clown. As for the highest and lowest total scores for the entire series, well, that hasn't changed since season 4. Tucker's Tale of the Midnight Ride is still my least favorite episode, and I guess it's my least favorite in the entire series with a total of 5 out of 25. Meanwhile, Betty Ann's Tale of the Ghastly Grinner is without a doubt my all-time favorite episode, reflected with its nearly perfect 24 out of 25. So those will be saying the same. And all that's left is to see what changes to the averages we'll be getting with the addition of Season 5, which will let us finally determine the best scary storyteller in Are You Afraid of the Dark? In last place, with an average score of 12 between 5 different stories, is David. I had a hard time connecting with a lot of David's stories, and found that he focused more on lessons rather than scares, so his scores never got too high. My least favorite story he told is definitely The Tale of the Hatching, but my favorite of his stories, and one of the most beautiful episodes in the entire series, was The Tale of the Shiny Red Bicycle. So David's got a pretty great legacy, even though he's in last place. In 9th place, unsurprisingly, we've got Tucker, who averaged a total of 13.6 between 7 total stories. I say unsurprisingly because he's gotten my least favorite episode in the series and the least favorite episode in multiple seasons now, so he was bound to be a little bit lower on the list. His worst episode is definitely The Tale of the Midnight Ride, but I did love all of his stories full of sibling bonding and adventures. My favorite story told by Tucker is definitely The Tale of the Fire Ghost. It scored that 20 out of 25, and it just gave us such a rad villain and really cool ghost protagonist as well. In 8th place is the missing man from season 1, Eric, who averaged a 14.5 between his 2 stories. While Jake and the Leprechaun didn't catch me very well, his story, The Tale of the Dark Music, was my favorite of season 1, and I still think the giant doll is one of the scariest scenes in the entire series. In 7th place, we've got Kristen, who averaged a 14.8 between her 5 stories. She's the storyteller who definitely focused the most on the story. She averaged the least scary score out of any storyteller, as her average was only a 3.6 out of 10 on that scare meter. But man, she told some incredible stories with the Hungry Hounds, the Prom Queen, the Final Wish, and the Frozen Ghost. All incredible stories and great episodes. In 6th place, we've got Kiki with an average of 15.5 and a total of 10 stories told. Kiki won the least scary story of the series with The Tale of the Jagged Sign, but she also told some of my favorites. I especially loved her alien stories with the Tales of the Unexpected Visitor and the Closet Keepers. She's also one of the 3 original Midnight Society members that we've been able to follow since season 1, so even though she didn't score the highest, we still gotta put some respect on the Kiki name. Plus she's Francine from Arthur, so that's like a default favorite for me. So, something pretty crazy happened when I was averaging out these scores. The storytellers for 5th, 4th, 3rd, and 2nd were all a score of 0.1 away from each other. I did my best to look at these episodes without bias for the storytellers and just scored based off of the episodes as fairly as I could. And in the end, they were all so incredibly close that it kind of blew me away, and it just shows how much quality there really was in this show. Being 0.1 away from each other, it was just so cool. Like I said, it was a bit crazy, so who are they? In 5th place, there's Sam, who averaged 16 between her 6 stories. She had a good mix of scares and love stories. I mean, her starting season was Watcher's Woods and The Dream Girl, which were one of the scariest episodes and one of the sweetest episodes in the entire series. And then with season 5, she blew me away with the Tales of C7 and The Night Shift. Like, her run in the middle there was a bit rough, but she eventually found her stride and told us some amazing stories. In 4th place, we've got my pal Frank with a score of 16.1 and his 6 stories told. I think Frank is the storyteller that gave us some of the weirdest episodes. The Dangerous Soup is so fun and funny. The Full Moon has some of the most style that we've seen in the series. And of course, the Phantom Cab started it all. But for me, Frank's best contribution is without a doubt Dr. Vink. Frank gave us 4 tales starring the Nutbag Doctor, and I only wish we got a few more.
I am not a nutbag.
In 3rd place, with an average score of 16.2 and 12 stories in total, is the horror queen herself, Betty Ann. I said it in my video for season 1, and I still believe it. I think Betty Ann is the person responsible for the most nightmares of any storyteller in the show. So many of her monsters were just terrifying or visually disturbing. Think about the girl turning into a doll from the Dollmaker episode, or the baby transforming into a python from the Whispering Walls. But for me, her greatest story and villain are of course the Ghastly Grinner. It's my favorite episode in the series, and she's consistently been one of the best storytellers in each season. She's also the 2nd of the 3 remaining original members, so we've gotten to hear from her a lot, and each time we did, it was a fun and scary time. And then there were 2. The oldest member of the club and the newest. In 2nd place, with an average score of 16.3, is Gary. the leader of the Midnight Society and the third member that we've been with since season 1. Gary told us 10 stories, and 9 of them were about magic or some kind of magical hijinks, so he definitely found his niche really early on. The only story he told that wasn't magic related was The Tale of the Renegade Virus. That one's just tech horror. But every other one of his stories was so unique and cool and fun. Not to mention Gary is the man responsible for giving us Mr. Sourdough.
It's Sourdough. No Mr. Accent on the dough.
Sourdough is one of my all-time favorite characters ever. I love his incredible magical knowledge base that always falls flat when he's about to make a buck. I love that each time we meet him, he asks if the kids want to buy vomit, and I love how they always haggle him down to pennies for these magical artifacts. And that leaves first place and the title of the best scary storyteller in the series to the newcomer, Stig, who absolutely blew everyone out of the water with his average score of 20.5 between his 2 stories. Part of me kind of hated that Stig won first place. Like, it feels wrong saying that he's a better storyteller than the other members that we've been watching since season 1. But at the same time, Stig definitely earned his score. It's not his fault that we didn't get more seasons of the show and more stories that would have rounded out his score a little bit. What we did get was 1 season with this kid and 2 absolutely mind-blowing stories. He gave us the Dead Man's Float, most people's scariest episode, and he gave us Station 109.1, which was my second favorite story in the entire series. Stig comes in and just captivates everyone. He only tells 2 stories, but those 2 stories are all he needed to show us that he understands what makes good horror, and what makes an interesting and fun plot. And that's what a great storyteller needs. So, I'm happy to give that first place to Stig, and to crown him as the best scary storyteller in Are You Afraid of the Dark, the original series. For a few other fun stats and prizes, Betty Ann told the most stories with 12, so we technically heard from her 18% of the entire series. I averaged out the bonus points, and Gary scored the highest average bonus, getting an average of 3.6 bonus points per episode. So I definitely enjoyed the extra sauce that he put into his tales. Both Stig and Sam are the only 2 to have stories that scored perfect 10s in both story and scares. We obviously know Stig's, but for Sam, she got a 10 out of 10 story with The Tale of the Night Shift and a 10 out of 10 scare score with Watcher's Woods. And I still think Kiki gave us the single scariest scene in any episode. And not to mention a really fun and cool little effect with that flashlight scene from The Tale of Old Man Corcoran. I just thought these were some fun little extra bits, so thought it would be fun to include them at the end here. And with that, we can wrap up this amazing show and declare this meeting of the Midnight Society closed.
Until next time.
Thank you all again so much for watching this along with me. I had such a blast making these videos, and I can't wait for the next show that we'll be covering. I will also cover the Revival series at some point in the future, but for now, this is the end of our journey to find the best scary storyteller in Are You Afraid of the Dark? If you like this video, then please leave a like and consider subscribing. These videos take a ton of work to make, so if you're looking for extra ways to support the channel, then consider checking out some of the merch at our store. I'll include a link in the description, or consider becoming a member. It's only a couple of bucks a month, and you'll get early access to videos, as well as a bit of exclusive content. Plus, you'll get your name read out at the end of these videos, just like all of these lovely people. Thank you to Puke K97, Mr. Blasto, Author A. Lex, Ladbag1714, Random Fook, Jessica Martinez, Chris Ovac, Paul A., Sarah, JT, Jordan King, Danielle Green, Aaron Ritchie, Joseph Caldwell, Kicked Joe Ass, Brush Thoughts, Kay, Rory, Nicole Zerbleen, April Farmentino, I Was Like Emilio, Stu the Human, Bogmeyer Sandman, Quibi, Kurukula, Zed Sizigi, Reaver Approach, Shelly March, and Igor DaCosta. Until next time, Try not to have too many nightmares of crimson clowns and floating bloody skeletons. Bye-bye! Clip of Badge jumping in and being like, "Returned has Badge." Is that thunder? That thunder just happened outside? Right when I yelled, "Return has Badge"? That's scary, dude.